Chapter 2377. Not long after Chen Zhao got home, Clive and Ampa came to visit. Chen Zhao was surprised by their arrival. Weren't they taken away by the Holy Knights? Why were they back? Mr. Chun, hello? Clive looked at Chen Zhao at the door. Hello, Mr. Clive, Ms. Ampa. They'd interacted before, but they weren't even friends. So they were still very distant when they talked. Even the way they addressed each other sounded distant. When did you guys come back? 2 days ago. 2 days ago? It seemed like they'd come back earlier than him. Did you have any special encounters in Istanbul? Chen Zhao asked, pretending not to know. Nothing special, Clive said casually. I just met a few new friends. Chen Zhao thought about it. It made sense. The Holy Knights weren't some evil organization. It was also impossible for him to do anything outrageous to them. Clive and Ampa only came to greet Chen Zhao. They also apologized to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao invited them into the manor. But they didn't want to stay. They left after apologizing. After sending Clive and Ampa away, Alex came again. It was also a small matter, but it required Chen Zhao's signature. Ever since Dash and Beer became popular, all sorts of trouble came. In short, it was a messy matter. For example, someone claimed that Dash and Beer stole someone's recipe. Or someone said that he had a problem drinking beer. It was more or less a case of petty theft. Alex had already taken care of these trivial matters. Those that should go to court would go to court, and those that should settle out of court would settle out of court. Chen Zhao basically didn't need to worry. Chen Zhao only needed to sign it. Of course, with Alex and her legal team. Even if it was settled out of court, the other party wouldn't get much money. Chen Zhao didn't think that he could extort money from them. For those who wanted to extort money from him, Chen Zhao would sue them directly. Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't let such a large group of lawyers stay idle. Even though Alex often told him that it wouldn't cost much to settle out of court. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao's reason was reasonable. I'm paying you guys to help me fight cases. She didn't mind helping Chen Zhao fight cases. However, there were always a few scoundrels who wanted to extort a sum of money every month. Therefore, it was basically endless. But Chen Zhao did not care. I helped you send 6 more people to prison this month, Alex said. Really? How many years was he sentenced to? The longest one is only a year, the others range from 3 to 9 months. Alex said, this kind of thing doesn't last long, and the compensation is less than $100,000. But the cost of the lawsuit is more than $2 million. No matter how one looked at it, this was a loss. But Chen Zhao did not care. This amount of money was within his acceptable range. Aunt Alex. Little Jerlin ran over, followed by little Larissa. Little Larissa also threw herself into Alex's arms while squeaking and squeaking. Little Larissa could already speak, but she couldn't speak clearly. Jerlin was obviously more talented in this aspect. Chen Zhao remembered that Jerlin could already call him Papa when she was 2 months old. Little Larissa was already 9 months old, but her speech was still slurred. However, he managed to recognize all of them. Although little Larissa and Alex weren't relatives in the true sense of the word. Nevertheless, Alex didn't forget to bring little Larissa a gift every time she came. Little Larissa naturally treated Alex as an aunt too. Feilai agreed and didn't treat Alex as an outsider. After asking Feilai to stay for dinner, Alex said goodbye and left. After dinner, the family played their own games in the living room. Didi and Penan sat in front of the TV and played console games. Outside, little Jerlin, little Larissa, and Sindora ran like crazy. Hilo was practicing boxing with King Kong in the yard. The underlings were busy inside and out. Feilai, on the other hand, was flipping through a secret Taoist book. On the other hand, Chen Zhao leaned against Princess and talked on the phone. Briar, Bramble, Simba, and Nana kept messing around on Chen Zhao and Princess. Hey, old Zhang, it's me. What's up? I told you last time that your disciple is going to die in Bermuda. He should have gone long ago, but he was delayed. On the other end of the phone, Zhang Tianyi fell silent. Chen Zhao's call wasn't to tip him off at all. He was asking for benefits. What's the price for you? Zhang Tianyi asked. Give me Dragon Tiger Mountain. Give me a sincere price, Zhang Tianyi said. Chun Zhao's condition didn't have any practical meaning. Zhang Tianyi wouldn't agree at all. Chun Zhao didn't even think about it. No, it's not convenient for me to get involved, Chun Zhao said. I have a grudge against him and the psionic team he's in. You want me to help the psionic team kill the enemy? Am I that stupid? Don't talk nonsense. As long as you give me enough benefits, nothing is impossible. Can't you just ask Yang Guo to leave the psionic team? Do I have to lower my pride and stick to his cold butt? Am I that cheap? Guo looks weak, but he's actually very stubborn. If I use seniority to order him around, he'll betray his master. Do I not care about my pride? Then give me a price that's worth it. Can't you do it yourself? We're separated by the Pacific Ocean, but it's not hard for you. Do you know what nuclear deterrence is? My status in the supernatural world is equivalent to that of a nuclear deterrent. Have you ever seen a nuclear warhead run around in someone else's territory? Anyway, I won't do it. Think of a way yourself. Chun Zhao's attitude was decisive. He really didn't want to do anything and let the psionic team do it themselves. They had money anyway. Even if they were all destroyed, they could form another team later. Last time, Zhang Tianyi had asked for his help, so he hired people from the Sacred Flame sect to cripple Yang Guo. That way, Yang Guo wouldn't be able to do anything. In the end, not only were the people from the Sacred Flame sect completely wiped out, they were even captured alive by the psionic team. No matter what, he couldn't get involved this time. You're really not going to help? It's not like you've never been to American territory before. Can't you just treat it as a friendly visit? Do you really need me to do it? It's not as simple as you say. I can't do anything, but you have so many disciples. You don't need Yang Guo. My disciples and disciples are all precious. I can't lose one. You can't do this, you can't do that. Only your disciples are precious? Anyway, I'm just here to inform you. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. Chapter 2378. Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi did not see eye to eye. Zhang Tianyi only wanted to contribute money, not effort, even if the other party was his grand disciple. Chun Zhao wanted benefits, but he didn't want to put in any effort. He felt that if he were to make a move, he would be supporting the enemy. Helping the enemy was equivalent to causing trouble for himself. No matter what, he couldn't do it. In the end, Zhang Tianyi was the first to hang up the phone. Chun Zhao estimated that Zhang Tianyi would either do it himself or send his disciples to help Yang Guo. Ferlin, don't disturb the underlings. They need to work. Chun Zhao glanced at Farintia, who was playing a prank. The children at home were already used to the existence of inferior demons. Moreover, they were spiritualists themselves, so it was not that difficult for them to accept this kind of supernatural creature. Darling, Fei Lai said, I've already helped the children with the enrollment procedures. Bring them to school in the next 2 days and see the environment. Also, donate some money to the school. All right. Seeing that they should be free for the next 2 days, Chun Zhao decided to take the kids to school. Also, it was about time for little Jerlin to enter preschool. Chun Zhao could arrange for a few private tutors, but he hoped that his children could interact with other children. School was the best place for children to socialize. To Chun Zhao, children didn't need to learn cultural knowledge in school. Instead, they needed to learn how to socialize. Of course, some of the children in the family were willing to go to school and some were not. Like Didala, who was the oldest of the children. Therefore, she was the most understanding. Although she was not very willing to go to school. But she never showed it. Another example was Kilo. He was introverted and shy, and wasn't good at socializing. Therefore, his reaction was the most obvious. He was unwilling. However, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai didn't listen to him. In Crow's case, it was a clear sign of a lack of social interaction. The more he didn't want to go to school, the more Chun Zhao and Fei Lai wanted to. The next day, Chun Zhao brought a group of kids to school. Of course, today was not the first day of school. Mr. Chun, nice to meet you. I'm Mackenzie, the principal of Mountain Elementary School. Mackenzie welcomed Chun Zhao in the parking lot. It wasn't Chun Zhao's first time meeting Mackenzie. However, there was no communication or interaction. They had met at a local festival in Mountain Town. Mackenzie had spoken a few words on the platform. As an invited guest, Chun Zhao had seen it from afar. Chun Zhao was the richest man in Mountain Town. Therefore, he would be invited to almost all the local celebrations. "Hello, Mr. Mackenzie. These are my children." "Hello, children." "Hello, Mr. Mackenzie." Tadira was the first to greet him. The school in Mountain Town could only be considered average in terms of teachers and scale. It was even a little inferior to the primary schools in China. The United States also had resources in the area of education funding. Large and developed regions would definitely have better resources. On the other hand, the resources in small and remote areas were much worse. For example, the school in Mountain Town was funded by the local government. However, the funding for education was also quite limited, although the children of the family had received education in the past. However, the education they received was also uneven. The American education system was divided into preschool education, primary education, secondary education, and higher education. Basically, it was equivalent to the 4 levels of education in China: kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, and university. However, the length of education differed from region to region. There were 8 or 4 systems, 6 or 6 systems, 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 systems. Mountain Town and the surrounding areas of LA were all 8 and 4. That was 8 years in primary school and 4 years in middle school. Apart from little Jerlin and little Larissa, the other children in Chen Zhao's family had more or less received some education. Their age distribution was also different. Mackenzie showed Chun Zhao and the children around the school. "The field seems a bit old. It was built when the school was first established," Mackenzie said. "Because it was a public school, the funding wasn't very abundant. That's the classroom building. Next to it is the library." Mackenzie introduced them one by one. Chun Zhao nodded. "Tadira, show them around the school." Tadira nodded understandingly. She was precocious, and due to her family's accident, she was more like an adult. After the children left, Chun Zhao took out a check and handed it to Mackenzie. When Mackenzie saw the number, she almost had a heart attack. The figures on it were more than enough to rebuild a new school if they were sponsored by the higher-ups. "Mr. Chen, I want my children to have a wonderful semester. I don't care about their grades, but I don't want them to be wronged. Mr. Mackenzie, do you understand?" "Yes, I understand. I'll try my best to ensure their studies and school experience." "Thank you for your help, Mr. Mackenzie." Smiling, Chun Zhao patted Mackenzie's shoulder. "If they're satisfied with the school, I'm willing to sponsor a sum of money every year. But if any of them aren't treated fairly or are wronged, I can't guarantee that I won't choose another school. The only advantage of Mountain Elementary is that it's close to home." As a principal, Mackenzie wasn't that interested in Chun Zhao and his family's children, but after receiving the sponsorship, Mackenzie changed his attitude. Even in a higher education institution, this amount of sponsorship would be considered a huge donation. "Also, before the Christmas break, I hope that the school can be renovated. Of course, we were limited by funding before. With your help, I don't think it's a problem anymore. Mr. Chun, are you interested in sponsoring our school team?" "School team? Are you talking about me or the brewery?" Chun Zhao was surprised. His main business was beer. America's education department didn't allow adult product manufacturers to sponsor primary and middle schools. Even if they wanted to sponsor, they could only do it in their own name. Alcohol products were even stricter. They weren't allowed to appear in any place in primary and middle schools. After all, Chun Zhao was a teacher, so he had some understanding of this. The check he'd just given should be enough to support the school team's competition. "Mr. Chun, do you only have one brewery? I remember that you have a restaurant, right?" "Air." Chun Zhao had never considered advertising Marina's restaurant. After all, Marina's restaurant was a high-end restaurant. Its service group was special, so it wasn't suitable to appear on TV. But if it was a school team, it wouldn't lower its profile. Instead, people would think that it was charity. What's the main competition for Mountain Elementary School? Chapter 2379. Marina's restaurant wasn't a secret. However, most people didn't know that Chun Zhao had other businesses. Mackenzie was a smart person. He probably asked about Chun Zhao's businesses. Maybe he couldn't find out about other businesses, but it wasn't hard to find out about Marina's restaurant. Mackenzie's request was simple. He wanted to sponsor the school team. His price wasn't high either. It was less than $20,000 a year. Dashan Elementary School had a basketball and cricket team. Chun Zhao had already donated $1 million. It was indeed a huge sum in one person's hands. However, for an old school like Dashan Elementary School, it was a bit hard to make ends meet. After all, everything needed to be repaired. Some places even needed to be expanded or built. Chun Zhao also wanted the school to be renovated. Therefore, the funds left for activities or education became tight. That was why Mackenzie asked Chun Zhao for money in the name of sponsorship. He knew about Marina's restaurant, even though he hadn't been there before. As the most famous and high-end restaurant in LA, it was easy to imagine how much it cost to go in and out. The people who went there were basically celebrities. They were either rich businessmen or celebrities. There weren't many restaurants like this in LA. Restaurants like this usually didn't advertise on TV. Advertising would actually lower the restaurant's grade. Usually, they would do soft advertisements in weekly magazines or newspapers. Or, in the entertainment news, give some money to the entertainment reporters and let them mention Marina's restaurant while reporting on celebrities. Chun Zhao had asked Stephen and James for help a few times. He would first invite them to eat at the restaurant, then spend money to find entertainment reporters to report. With Stephen and James's current fame and status, other restaurants wouldn't be able to invite them. Regardless of whether they spent money or not, it was impossible for them to advertise a restaurant just for a meal. However, they were happy to help Chun Zhao so that he would owe them a favor. As for Stephen, his cooperation with Chun Zhao was quite pleasant. Because of Chun Zhao's help, he had even reached the peak of his career. James, on the other hand, knew how powerful Chun Zhao was. Chun Zhao wasn't the only one who was close to Stephen and Rasva. He was also very powerful in the business world. At least this time, due to the funding problem, the film company asked him if there were any ways to get funding for his new movie. James decided to give it a try and called Chun Zhao. In the end, Chun Zhao helped him get 60% of the budget for his new movie. It was very difficult to run a high-end restaurant, at least in the early stages. Advertising would lower the standard of the company, but no one would know if they didn't advertise. Just like what Chun Zhao had done before, he could buy a ready-made one. If Nafa Twain had not been in a hurry to use the money, Chun Zhao might not be able to buy the shares of Marina's restaurant at such a cheap price. The monthly revenue and net profit of Marina's restaurant were definitely worth the huge sum. The monthly turnover of Ma Lina's restaurant could even exceed 20 million. After deducting taxes, the net profit was still more than 50%. This was definitely a very high-quality property. Of course, this was also because Chun Zhao had provided some special ingredients. Delicious and expensive at the same time. Ordinary people couldn't afford it. But in Los Angeles, there was no lack of rich people. Moreover, Ma Lina's restaurant had many repeat customers. Among them, there were countless celebrities. Marina Restaurant doesn't allow reporters to enter. However, if the celebrity was willing, they might be the ones who found the reporter. The restaurant wouldn't stop them. But because of Marina's restaurant's special position, it was hard to advertise. Spending tens of thousands of dollars to sponsor a school team was quite suitable for Marina's restaurant. Of course, the rate of return was basically of little value. After all, even if he put Marina's restaurant's name on the school team's clothes, no one would pay attention to it, unless they could participate in at least an intercontinental competition. After visiting the school, Chun Zhao left with the children. When he got home at noon, there was no one at home. Feilai had gone to work, but the underlings had already prepared lunch. After the family finished eating, they heard the sound of a car horn outside the door. "Master, Mr. Stephen is visiting," the system reminded. The underlings that had been scattered around the house immediately sped up. In a few minutes, they finished what they had to do and returned to their lair. After the gate was opened automatically, Stephen drove the car into the parking lot like he was familiar with the place. Chun Zhao had been standing in the parking lot to welcome Stephen. But as soon as Stephen got out of the car, he started cursing at Chun Zhao. "You asterisk shoal. Where have you been for the past half a month? Every time I call you, you don't answer. Either you're outside the service area." Chun Zhao shrugged and turned to look at the other middle-aged man that Stephen had brought. Chun Zhao knew that Stephen wouldn't bring strangers to his house. Even if he wanted to introduce a friend, it wouldn't be in his house. "Hello? I'm Lit's father. I'm Drow Grove." Chun Zhao was stunned. Was this Lit Grove's dad? No wonder Stephen had brought him here. "Hello, Mr. Drow. I really like your movie." Drow Grove chuckled. He didn't believe Chun Zhao's polite words. Chun Zhao had been confused when he saw him just now. He clearly didn't recognize him. Of course, he wasn't here to argue with Chun Zhao this time. It was mainly because when he'd invested in a movie last time, his son had to borrow money from Chun Zhao to start filming because of the funding problem. He heard from his son that Stephen had hired him as the lead in Stephen's new movie because of Chun Zhao's help. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to come over and thank Chun Zhao. From his son, he got a rough understanding of Chun Zhao's personal information. For example, he was very rich, very powerful, and couldn't be messed with. But Drow Grove didn't have any idea about this. But when he saw Mirror Lake Manor, he knew how rich Chun Zhao was. As an A-list celebrity, he had a lot of money. But the manor before him was probably as rich as his family. He was curious how a university professor like Chun Zhao could be so rich and have so many connections in Hollywood. At first, he'd only thought that Chun Zhao had some money. But after the audition for Stephen's new movie, he was hired directly. Only then did he start to believe his son's words. Chapter 2380. In America, the evaluation of rich people was divided into several levels. First was the car. America was a country with a lot of cars, so most of them were cheap. But luxury cars were still very expensive. Therefore, if this person was driving a luxury car, then this person was definitely a rich person. Second was the house. Houses were judged by location, size, and area. For example, in Beverly Hills, the most direct impression was that there were a lot of patrolling police. This was how the government treated the rich differently. Then there was the yacht. Drow Grove saw the yacht docked by the shore. This yacht was almost equivalent to his entire fortune. Drow Grove made up his mind to build a good relationship with Chun Zhao. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't have such thoughts. He treated Chun Zhao more like a normal guest. Although he was Lit Grove's father, Chun Zhao didn't have any relationship with Lit Grove. There wasn't even any exchange of benefits. Their social classes were also different. So Chun Zhao really didn't have anything in common with Lit Grove. Of course, Chun Zhao still had the most basic etiquette for guests. When he served Stephen and Drow Grove, he still took out his precious red wine. After all, Drow Grove had been in Hollywood for decades. He was experienced. Of course, he could feel that Chun Zhao didn't interact with him. However, this was also human nature. After all, it was their first time meeting. Chun Zhao's relationship with Drow Grove was all because of his son. Even Stephen had brought him here because of his son. Drow Grove also got this role because of his son. However, Drow Grove didn't expect to talk about life and philosophy with Chun Zhao on the first day. At least they'd gotten to know each other and talked. They'd find a chance to meet next time and their relationship would come out. Before leaving, Chun Zhao sent Stephen and Drow Grove to the door with a large piece of meat in his hand. At the same time, he looked at Famtis in the driver's seat. "Famtis, this is for your Evan. Of course, people can eat it too." "Thank you," Famtis said. "Can you put it in the trunk for me?" She knew that Chun Zhao would give her good stuff. Every week, Chun Zhao would send 20 kilograms of raw food to Stephen. Famtis was in charge of transporting the food back and forth between the two ends. Occasionally, Stephen would give her some too. And Evan was very fond of eating these kinds of meat. "Chun, I've eaten most of the food you sent last time," Stephen said. "Marina's restaurant has unlimited supplies," Chun Zhao said bluntly. "If you want to eat, go to my restaurant. Marina's restaurant is so expensive. I need at least $10,000 to fill my stomach." I can't afford to go there every day. Drow made a mental note. So Marina Restaurant was his property. Mr. Stephen, what animal did that leg belong to? Where can I find the goods? I don't know what animal it is, but I know it's delicious. As for the original source, only Chun knows. That's his secret. If you want to know, you'll have to ask him yourself and see if he'll tell you. However, Marina Restaurant sells a limited amount of original ingredients every month. If you're interested, you can check it out, but it won't be cheap. Drow didn't want to steal Chun Zhao's business. He was just curious. What price? Marina Restaurant sells 100 kilograms of ingredients every month. Each kilogram is maintained at more than $10,000. Occasionally, they provide more expensive ingredients. Drow Grove sucked in a breath of cold air. Didn't this restaurant earn more than him, a big star? Not to mention Drow Grove's idea. Many rich and famous people had wanted to get their hands on Marina's restaurant, but Chun Zhao had rejected them all. Most of Marina Restaurant's shares were in Chun Zhao's hands now. Only a small portion was mortgaged to the bank. Of course, rather than saying it was mortgaged, it was more like an exchange of benefits and the maintenance of relationships. There were so many investors in the world. They invested everywhere to find good projects. But good projects weren't so easy to find. Take some internet companies that everyone was familiar with. It seemed like the investors who invested in these giant internet companies made a lot of money, but in fact, before they successfully invested in these internet companies, they had made the same investment dozens or even hundreds of times. It was basically like 1 or 2 out of dozens or hundreds of failed investments. Only then could they recoup their capital. Why would the owners let you invest in a confirmed good project? Because you had money? There were many rich people in the world. Thus, Drow only thought about it. He wouldn't do anything. Drow was more concerned about Chun Zhao's connections and connections. Seemed like he had to ask his son. Let's see if Leet has any more information. Not long after Stephen left, Chun Zhao received a special call. Hello, handsome. What's up? Chun Zhao looked at the screen. The handsome guy was lying lazily on a cloud. I heard from Belial that you fought a Titan snake before, he asked. Yes, but it's a modified Titan snake. Find me a pure-blooded Titan snake, dead or alive, but the heart must be intact, the handsome guy said. Depends on luck, Chun Zhao said. I'm not sure if I can find one again. Just then, a cryptic magic array appeared on Chun Zhao's screen. Find an empty space and set up this magic array. Summon a weapon I made for capturing Titan snakes. Empty space? How big? Not too big, the handsome guy said. About 10 meters is enough. Chun Zhao started drawing the magic array on the grass in the backyard. You drew it wrong. It's a bit too much. Chun Zhao was a bit annoyed. A bit more or less is fine. If you insist on drawing it like this, you might summon a Lord-level demon. Of course, it'll also drain your magic power. This magic array can summon demons? Didn't you say it's a weapon? I changed it at the last minute. It's from another magic array. Also, you drew it wrong again. There's a tick missing. You'll be sent to an unknown space. Magic arrays are so troublesome. It's indeed difficult for untalented humans. Can you not look down on me before ordering me to do things? Chun Zhao pointed at the ground. Another ravine appeared. There's another line. It'll cost you 10% more magic power. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 2381. Chun Zhao really didn't have the talent to draw magic arrays. Fine, Chun Zhao admitted it. It wasn't that he couldn't draw the magic array that the handsome young man had provided. If he just copied it, he could finish it in 3 to 5 days. However, Chun Zhao clearly didn't plan on spending 3 to 5 days to draw a magic array. If he had the time, he might as well kill a Titan snake. It would be more straightforward. So, Chun Zhao could only find help. Help me gather the kids in the living room, Chun Zhao said to the butler. As long as they were in the manor, Chun Zhao didn't need to shout. The butler would receive his orders. When Chun Zhao entered the living room, the kids were coming down the stairs. Uncle, did you call us? Have any of you studied magic arrays before? Or who knows how to draw one? Uncle me, Binz yelled excitedly, raising his right hand. Chun Zhao looked at Binance, who was 7 years old. He didn't trust this young face at all. Binz, aren't you a water mage? Uncle, I really can draw magic arrays. My mom used to be a Turing mage. I'm a water mage, but I've been taught basic Turing magic, Binz said. Chun Zhao looked at Didi, who nodded. Auntie Muller is indeed a Turing mage, but I didn't know that Binz can draw magic arrays. Chun Zhao took out his phone. Look at this magic array. Can you draw it? What a huge magic array. Binz looked at the array on the screen and said, Uncle, is this a summoning array? Or something? A weapon from hell, Chun Zhao said casually. Isn't it too complicated? It's not complicated at all. Someone must have modified it. It's not an original one, Binz said. At the same time, he glanced at Chun Zhao. It looks like someone modified it to make it easier for people who don't know how to carve it. But at the same time, it also increased the spellcaster's requirement. Uncle, according to the mana requirement of this magic circle, it will need a lot of mana. Chun Zhao could clearly see the disdain in Bin's eyes. Chun Zhao's face twitched. Stop nagging. Draw it for me. Uncle, it's okay if you want me to draw a magic array, but you have to promise me something. What? I don't want to go to school. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes and dialed a number. Hey, right, it's Chun Zhao. Help me contact a completely sealed school. I want to send a disobedient asterisk shoal there. No. Binance hurriedly hugged Chun Zhao. Uncle, I was wrong. Grabbing Binance's chin, Chun Zhao smirked. Change your conditions. Take me with you the next time you go on a mission, said Binance. Other than Sidora and Mara, who were 2 younger girls, everyone else's eyes lit up. They also wanted to go on missions with Chun Zhao. It was definitely very, very thrilling. If it suits me, I can bring you along. I don't care. I'll take it as you've agreed. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. He didn't agree, but he didn't nod immediately either. Binance grabbed the phone and ran into the backyard. Earlier, he had seen Chun Zhao working in the backyard for half a day, but when he saw Chun Zhao's magic array, he looked back at Chun Zhao. His eyes were filled with disdain. Yes, disdain. Then he stretched out his leg and erased Chun Zhao's half an hour of hard work. But he had to admit that Chun Zhao was indeed bad at magic arrays. More accurately, he was very bad. Binance's completion rate in 5 minutes was higher than Chun Zhao's half an hour. Holding the phone, Chun Zhao said, Binance, don't you need to compare the magic array? You might make a mistake. Don't treat others like you. The handsome guy hadn't hung up yet. He was still mocking Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao grinned. If I knew this, I wouldn't have taken this hard job. Can't you blame me? I've already simplified the original magic array hundreds of times, but you still can't draw it. I just don't have the talent. That's all. Get rid of that. Seeing that he couldn't help Binance, Chun Zhao sat down where he was. As soon as he sat down, he felt something wet on his butt. Touching it, Chun Zhao's face darkened. The backyard of the manor was open and connected to the grassland. Occasionally, cows and sheep would come here. Most of the time, they would be chased away by the family pets. But sometimes, the cows and sheep would leave some gifts before they left. Chun Zhao wanted to cry. What was under his butt was a fresh cow fawn. He called the underlings to clean up the place. Chun Zhao returned to the bathroom to take a shower before coming out. In 10 minutes, Binance had finished half of it. This kid's talent is good. I have some magic books like this. I'll give them to you later. Oh, I have a question. Go ahead. I have a friend, to be precise, he's my subordinate. He doesn't have any magic power, he's just an ordinary person. But he relied on his charisma, deception to sneak into the enemy's headquarters and was treated as a VIP. However, he doesn't have any ability to protect himself. Recently, due to some matters, the enemy needs to test the strength of their subordinates. Now, he only has 2 choices. Either he directly shows his cards or he gets killed by the enemy. Is there any way to give him the ability to protect himself? The simple. Make a summoning magic array for him. Of course, no matter how convenient it is, it's not as convenient as carving it on his skin. He doesn't have any magic. How can he use the summoning magic array? And what about the target? Sacrificial summoning doesn't need magic. You mean the kind that uses living people as sacrifices? Of course not. Sacrifice is more like hiring. As long as you can pay something of equal value, you don't have to use a living person. Also, how much do you know a living person is worth? There's no lack of human souls in hell. Unless you sacrifice hundreds or thousands of people at once, you won't be able to summon a decent demon. What do I have that's valuable? Not dollars, right? It's convenient if it's dollars, but how much does it cost? Is 100,000 enough? The handsome guy stared at Chun Zhao on the screen, speechless. Of course, we'll use your wealth in hell. Didn't you obtain a large number of spoils of war when you and your friends captured a great lord's territory? In addition, you also have a large number of demonic crystals and angelic crystals. These can also be used as sacrifices. How much? That depends on what level of demon you want. A great lord is impossible. Your wealth is huge, but it's not enough for a great lord to break the rules and come to the human world. According to my estimation, a normal demonic crystal can summon about 10 low-level demons. If it's an angelic crystal of the same level, it should be able to summon 15 low-level demons. Angelic crystals are more valuable than demonic crystals. Yes, for demons in hell. After all, angelic crystals aren't from hell. But there are many mines for demonic crystals in hell. 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 2382. You can't even speak properly. It's just that rare things are more valuable. It was rare for Chun Zhao to mock the handsome guy. The guy's face darkened and his eyes flashed. He was probably going to take revenge on Chun Zhao. How about it? Do you need it? If your subordinate needs it, I have a large demon army for you or him to command. We're so close. Shouldn't I help for free? Of course I can, but the army under my command can't be free. Every single one of them is an individual. I can command them to be loyal to me and fight for me, but I can't make them submit to others again. Moreover, going from hell to the human world requires a huge amount of power, and most of the sacrifices consumed in this sacrificial summoning are used to open the passage. What if they die? Chun Zhao asked. Do I need compensation? The guy rolled his eyes. Do you want it or not? Chun Zhao was in a difficult position. Sacrificial summoning was both expensive and cheap. But it was for others and not for him. It wasn't worth it no matter how he thought about it. But Toddy Belster was still working for him. Chun Zhao couldn't just ignore him. Fine. Help me make a summoning ritual. It'll be my reward for helping you catch the Titan snake. After thinking for a while, Chun Zhao finally agreed to the guy's suggestion. To be honest, Chun Zhao's demonic crystals and angelic crystals had already accumulated to an astronomical amount. Plus the wealth in hell, Chun Zhao was quite rich. Even if Toddy Belster spent it, it would take a long time to finish. Oh, will there be any side effects from this summoning? Also, will the summoned demons bite back at us? No, at least not with my ritual, the guy said confidently. The handsome young man said confidently, every demon summoned by my magic array has absolute loyalty. That's good. That guy can't protect himself. Chun Zhao returned to the backyard. The underlings had already combed through the nearby grass. They ensured that nothing new would be left outside. At the same time, they invited the gift giver to their dining table. I'll eat it tonight. On the other side, Binance's ritual was almost complete. Take a look and see if there's anything wrong. Good talent. There's no mistake, the guy said. Uncle, it's done. Finally, Binance finished the last part and heaved a long sigh of relief. Take a look and see if it's correct. Not bad. Apart from the slightly inferior technique, there are no other mistakes. Binance looked at Chun Zhao in disdain. He was just being polite, but Chun Zhao really didn't care. What do you mean by that look? Are you looking down on Uncle? Alright, I was going to give you a few high-end magic books, but I'll forget about it because of your gaze. Binance's eyes lit up. Uncle, what kind of magic book? Although Binance looked down on Chun Zhao's Turing magic, Binance didn't think much of it. But Chun Zhao's strength was obvious. Moreover, it wouldn't be hard for him to get a high-level magic book. Come, put in a good word for Uncle. Uncle, you're the best. Be careful. Forget it. I want to see if this magic array is useful. Chun Zhao walked to the center of the magic array. At the same time, he looked at Binance. Step aside. After all, he still didn't know what effect this summoning magic array would produce. So he told Binance to stay away. This summoning magic array didn't need any incantations. The handsome guy probably knew that Chun Zhao couldn't remember it. All he had to do was pour his magic power into the magic array. Chun Zhao stood in the magic array, and immortal power was released from his body. As soon as it left his body, it was immediately absorbed by the magic array. The summoning magic array lit up, but it was only activation. It was far from activating it. If he wanted to activate the summoning magic array, he would need even more power. Chun Zhao estimated that people below the Shangqing state might not be able to activate this summoning magic array. Moreover, the difference in personal strength would also affect the magic array. For example, Chun Zhao's immortal power was compared to a regular spiritualist's magic power. For example, let's compare number 90 gasoline with number 93 gasoline. There was a 5% difference in energy consumption and also a 5% difference in the consumption of the engine. The difference between immortal power and regular magic power wasn't as simple as 5%. As Chun Zhao poured his immortal power in, the summoning magic array grew brighter and brighter. Chun Zhao's immortal power was also continuously extracted. Just then, an inverted image of the magic array appeared above the summoning magic array. The upper and lower magic arrays resonated with each other. The two magic arrays emitted enormous energy at the same time. Instantly, a singularity opened in the upper and lower magic arrays. The singularity instantly expanded. The next moment, a ring appeared in the center of the magic arrays. The ring was engraved with indecipherable inscriptions. Chun Zhao raised his right arm as if he had an epiphany. The ring landed on Chun Zhao's right wrist. It shrank instantly and wrapped itself tightly around his wrist. At the same time, the magic array closed. The magic array carved on the ground was left with a scorch mark. The original patterns had disappeared. The entire process was both difficult and simple. There weren't any technical difficulties. Any spiritualist who had awakened could do it easily. However, that was the only difficulty. With enough magic power, an ordinary spiritualist would be sucked dry just by standing here. Chun Zhao retracted his arm and looked at the ring. The metal ring looked like an ornament. It was exquisite, but it didn't match Chun Zhao's style. But Chun Zhao couldn't take it off now. This thing would only activate itself when he encountered the Titan snake. Apart from affecting Chun Zhao's personal style, it didn't have any other effects. It wouldn't increase Chun Zhao's personal strength or combatability. Chun Zhao muttered. This guy wasn't giving him any advantages at all. Uncle, is this a weapon from hell? It looks normal. What's its use? Binance walked up and looked at the metal ring on Chun Zhao's wrist. He was looking forward to Chun Zhao's live performance. What weapon? It's an ornament, hell style. How about it? Not bad, right? Binance rolled his eyes. Uncle, I'm not a kid. I'm already 7. Just then, Chun Zhao received another message on his phone. Chun Zhao glanced at his phone. It wasn't one message, but 2. One was about Turing's spell, while the other was about sacrificing the summoning magic array. Chapter 2383. Angel Coast. If one were to say that the most beautiful scenery here was not the beach and the scenery, it was the lifeguards. Recently, the coastal rescue team had received a large donation. Therefore, other than expanding the basic building and buying professional equipment, the team had also hired 10 more lifeguards. If they only relied on the original 12 lifeguards, the workload would be too much. Almost every member of the coastal rescue team had to continuously patrol and save people during working hours. With the addition of 10 new lifeguards, the pressure on the old lifeguards was relieved. The current arrangement was basically 1 new member and 1 old member in one group. There were 10 groups in total. They would patrol the 4-kilometer-long coastline every time. There were 5 groups each time. The other 5 groups would rest at the observation deck or the headquarters. The vice captain is called Phalai, right? Does she have a boyfriend? Phalai? I advise you not to do anything to her. Not only does she have a boyfriend, but she also has a child. I don't mind. Her boyfriend does, Igo said calmly. Also, I'm sure that you can't afford to offend her boyfriend. Money doesn't mean everything. Igo glanced at the boy who had just joined the team and left school not long ago. But having nothing means a lot of problems. Plus, I think you can't compare to Chun in any aspect. I believe I'm stronger than him, the new member said. 3 months ago, when he came to pick Phalai up, he encountered a group of hooligans nearby. Then the nearby police station received a report that he was robbed. However, when the police arrived, Chun was standing among the hooligans unharmed. He was even carrying a child in one hand, while the hooligans were all lying on the ground. There were 13 of them in total. After that incident, the hooligans completely disappeared from the area. He clearly didn't do it. He's carrying a child. There's no way he can beat 13 people. The hooligans' testimonies have been verified. He did it. This means that the guy has a serious tendency to be violent. Igo rolled his eyes. I hope this doesn't reach Phalai or Chen's ears, or you'll be in trouble. What? Will he beat me up? I'm not afraid of him. I don't know how to beat you up, but Chun has a large team of lawyers. Those 13 hooligans have already been sentenced to prison for attempted murder, kidnapping, robbery, illegally carrying dangerous weapons, and hiding drugs. Are you sure you want to go against Chun? The new member was shocked. Actually, I was just joking. Igor smiled and patted the shoulder of his new teammate. Good boy. Chun Zhao had a good relationship with the old team members. He would give them gifts every few days or invite them to parties. He also donated a lot of money to the coastal rescue team, increasing their benefits and treatment. Occasionally, he would also help them with other trivial matters. For example, last time someone's family needed legal aid, and he was happy to help. Plus, he was nice to Phalai, so old members like Igor liked him a lot. However, some of the new members still thought that Phalai was pretty, so they set their sights on her. Igor and the other veteran members received Robio's orders to persuade the new members appropriately. Otherwise, these youngsters would do anything rash. Otherwise, the consequences would be severe. Robio might not know about Chun Zhao's background, but he knew that Chun Zhao was rich. If these people offended Phalai, getting beaten up would only be a light punishment. She might even disappear from the world. No one would know if she was alive or dead. Someone's drowning ahead. Hurry and save them. Igor suddenly noticed that there were people bobbing up and down in the sea. At this moment, a red figure rushed into the sea like a bolt of lightning. So, she's a sprinting champion, right? Stop talking. Hurry and save them. Igor also charged out. Igor was already used to it. Phalai's sprinting and swimming speed could be described as terrifying. She completely surpassed the male members of the coastal rescue team. Sometimes, he even wondered if rich people ate special tonics. As a female, Phalai's superhuman stamina made all the male members of the coastal rescue team feel ashamed. Of course, Phalai's stamina was exaggerated, but it was still acceptable. Igor could barely keep up with Phalai in front of him. The new member, on the other hand, was having a hard time. He had actually been on the school swimming team when he was in school. However, swimming in the sea was completely different from swimming in a pool. The ups and downs of the waves would bring about huge resistance and consume more stamina. Veterans like Igor and Phalai were already used to the ups and downs of the waves. They knew how to use the potential energy of the sea. That was why they swam faster and also knew how to use the power of the waves. The new member, on the other hand, needed a long time to figure it out. That was why Phalai had already fished the drowning person out when the new member was only halfway there. However, Phalai had also used up most of her stamina. After putting on a life jacket for the drowning person, she swam back more than 10 meters. Igor came up to help. The two of them worked well together and pulled the drowning person to the shore. The new member didn't come up to help. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. He could only follow behind Phalai and Igor. The new member returned to the shore and looked at Phalai and Igor, who were saving the drowning person. He put his hands on his hips and panted. Sorry, I couldn't help. Phalai and Igor ignored the new member and focused on saving the drowning person. Igor gave the drowning person mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The drowning person vomited out some seawater, but he was still unconscious. Robio, I'm Phalai. 1 kilometers west of the shore. We need first aid equipment and a stretcher. Just then, Phalai saw an octopus stuck to the drowning person's foot. The octopus must have attached itself to the drowning person's foot, causing the person's leg to cramp. Phalai patted the drowning person's calf and picked up the octopus. The octopus tentacles immediately wrapped around Phalai's palm. Phalai felt a slight prick on her palm. Then, she saw her palm turn black. Immediately, Phalai felt her body go limp and she fell to the ground. Phalai, what's wrong? Don't move. It's poisonous. Help me, inform Chin. Phalai's voice was weak and she looked very weak. Do we need to inform Chin? Igor asked hesitantly. Most people knew that most octopuses had a tiny amount of paralysis toxin. It was mainly used to paralyze their prey. However, even a giant octopus's toxin had very little effect on the human body. However, this palm-sized octopus could actually make her feel weak all over. One must know that her body and resistance to poison were many times higher than a normal person's. This was why Phalai felt that this octopus was unusual. Chapter 2384. Chun Zhao hurried to the hospital. By then, Phalai had already been sent to the hospital. When Chun Zhao arrived, Robio, Igor, and the others were standing outside the door. Robio, where's Phalai? What's the situation? Chun Zhao asked anxiously. Phalai's in the emergency room, Robio said. He didn't know how to face Chun Zhao. After all, he'd promised Chun Zhao that he'd take good care of Phalai. But now something had happened. Of course, it was hard to say how serious the situation was. I'll go in and take a look. Chun Zhao pushed open the door. Seeing Chun Zhao come in, the doctor frowned. Get out. Get out. Ignoring the doctor's attitude, Chun Zhao walked toward Phalai. You're here. Phalai's voice was weak. Chun Zhao put down the suitcase and glanced at the doctor. Excuse me. You? I'm a doctor too. That doesn't mean you can come here and disturb my work. Chun Zhao waved his finger. At the same time, I'm rich too. Very rich, so I can. Then the emergency doctor made way for him. Clearly, he knew that going against the rich wasn't a wise choice. In fact, he would occasionally accept some part-time jobs similar to Chun Zhao. Moreover, most of the patients he accepted were rich, so he knew the power and influence of the rich. Thank you. Please give us some peace and close the door. After chasing the doctor out, Chun Zhao's heart ached when he saw Phalai's swollen hand, which was 3 times its original size. There was also a round, fat octopus on it. You didn't take it off? Chun Zhao asked, frowning. I can't. It hurts when I pull, Phalai said. Really? What about now? It doesn't hurt now. The octopus's poison might have a numbing effect. As long as you don't pull it by force, it won't hurt too much. Chun Zhao looked at the octopus. It seemed to have a faint magical aura. Chun Zhao pinched the octopus's head. It was swollen, but it was empty. Chun Zhao took out a scalpel, planning to cut the octopus. Just then, the octopus suddenly reached out with a tentacle and grabbed Chun Zhao's right hand. Huh? The suckers on the tentacles quickly stuck to the back of his hand. At the same time, spikes extended from the sucker, trying to penetrate his skin. Unfortunately, the little octopus was helpless against Chun Zhao, who had thick skin and flesh. Chun Zhao used the scalpel to cut off the octopus's tentacles. But just then, Phalai suddenly felt dizzy. At the same time, the octopus's broken tentacles quickly grew back. He could feel that Phalai's life force was being absorbed by the octopus. Chun Zhao's expression changed. This thing really wasn't a natural creature. Chun Zhao cut open the octopus's head. In an instant, a wave of magic power that was neither strong nor weak gushed out of the hole in the giant head. The octopus also lost its life. It wriggled a few times and fell off the back of Feilai's hand. Chun, I don't know what it is, but it's not a natural creature. At the same time, he took out a bottle of medicine made of demonic crystals. Drink this. I'll find something else for you later. This thing is a bit poisonous. After drinking the medicine, Feilai's complexion recovered a lot. However, she couldn't recover her lost life force in a short time. In fact, it was a permanent loss. Feilai wasn't injured either. The strange octopus had a bit of paralysis poison. This wasn't a big problem. Even with Feilai's own body, the poison would be eliminated in a few hours. After taking off the octopus, Feilai's hand was much less swollen. Let's go home first, Qinzhao said. There's another person who drowned. He was also bitten by the octopus. Yes. Most of his life force was probably sucked away, Qinzhao said. After I make the medicine for you, I'll send some to him too. Okay. Feilai nodded. But before leaving, Qinzhao quietly put away the octopus's stone. When they got home, the children all came to greet Feilai after learning that she was injured. Jerlin was crying her eyes out. She didn't know how serious Feilai's injury was. She just looked at Feilai's face and thought that it was very serious. Qinzhao entered Blackie's alternate space. Blackie, help me see what this is. Qinzhao tossed the octopus's stone before Blackie. Isn't this just a regular octopus? Blackie studied it for a long time but couldn't find anything. Octopus? Regular octopuses can suck people's life force? This thing can suck people's life force. Blackie was surprised. After studying it for a while, Blackie said in surprise, "This thing should be an octopus, but it seems to have been affected by something and mutated, but not much. Are you sure it's an acquired mutation?" "Yes, this octopus's body is still an octopus. There's not much change." Blackie did research on biology every now and then, so he was more familiar with biology than Qinzhao. Of course, Blackie couldn't kill directly, so Qinzhao usually gave him dead creatures. Most of the time, Qinzhao would bring some of his enemies to Blackie for research. To mutate a regular octopus into an unnatural creature without a huge mutation, one possibility is that the person responsible for the modification is very skilled. Another possibility is that the modification process is compatible with the octopus's genes, just like how creatures of the same species can reproduce in nature. Maybe it's not a modification, but a reproduction. You mean, someone or some unnatural creature reproduced with the octopus and gave birth to this octopus? That makes sense, but I'm not sure about the specifics. Everything is just my personal speculation. After leaving the alternate space, Qinzhao suddenly received a call from West. "President, something happened. Come quickly." "Huh? What's wrong?" A large number of supernatural creatures have appeared on the LA coastline. Dozens of people have been attacked. One is seriously injured and already dead. Supernatural creature. Is it an octopus? "President, you know? Feilai was attacked too. That thing can suck people's life force," Qinzhao said. "I'll go now." Dozens of people had been attacked and there were casualties. This was a serious incident in the supernatural world. The supernatural organization was responsible for this, so Qinzhao didn't dare to delay. He immediately rushed to the organization. Chapter 2385. Qinzhao hurried to the supernatural organization. Because of Feilai's encounter, Qinzhao realized the severity of the matter. Feilai had her own treatment. Otherwise, she might not have ended up well. The octopus was extremely aggressive. Even though it was attached to a person, it was still very dangerous. It was fine if they were careful, but if they weren't careful, the healer might become the injured person being treated. After arriving at the headquarters, Qinzhao found West. "What's the situation now?" An unknown octopus has been found on almost every beach along the Los Angeles coastline. This octopus seems to be particularly fond of attacking mammals. The first to discover the octopus was a couple. They were taking their dog for a walk on the beach, and then something happened to the dog. The wife found an octopus attached to the dog, so she used her hand to fiddle with it. As a result, the octopus slipped into the wife's hand, and the wife collapsed. The husband immediately called the police. The Los Angeles police also received about 20 similar reports in a very short period of time. They then reported it to the security department, and then the security department passed the information to us. The security department sent it to us. Chen Zhao was surprised. The counterterrorism department had never been on good terms with them. Why would they give the mission to them now? Didn't the counterterrorism department always give missions to the psionic team? After all, the psionic team was a direct subordinate of the counterterrorism department. They were their own children. Usually, missions given to the supernatural organization were too difficult for the psionic team to handle. Or maybe there was a trap waiting for the supernatural organization to jump in. You think it's a trap? No. West shook his head. Probably because they don't have the energy to deal with this. Aren't they arranging the expedition to Bermuda? Plus, the psionic team probably can't do anything about it either. West paused. Then he looked at Chen Zhao. President, do you have a plan? If it's just the injured people, it's not a big problem. I can treat them, but what about afterwards? Since those mutated octopuses appeared along the coastline of LA, it means that there's more. With the supernatural organization and the counterterrorism department's authority, they can lock down the entire coastline for 3 to 5 days. But if they can't find the source, it'll be difficult. More than 20 people had been attacked in a day. This meant that there were a lot of these things. So they had to find the source. If they couldn't, it would be useless no matter how hard they worked. But how could they find clues? In that case, the Counterterrorism Security Department would be in charge of intelligence. The Supernatural Society has no intelligence system. But would the Anti-Terrorism Security Department honestly give them the information? This made Chen Zhao very suspicious. Don't tell me the purpose of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department is to charge us with incompetence and then dismiss us? They don't have the guts to do anything. This matter is not small. If this matter is not resolved, we will have to bear the consequences. Do you think they will feel better? At the end of the day, they were all subordinates and superiors. If this got out of hand, both departments would be in trouble. However, the Anti-Terrorism Security Department is made up of ordinary people. Although they have an intelligence department, it's difficult for them to get involved in matters of the supernatural world. So, this time it won't be just us. I'm guessing that the psionic team will also get involved. So, we have to work together. Chen Zhao asked, narrowing his eyes. It might not be cooperation. We might just stab each other in the back. West said helplessly. Don't expect two enemies to love each other and help each other through the difficulties in the face of danger. It was more likely that they would fight to the death before settling the problem. This wasn't the right thing to do, but it was human nature. Let's not worry about the Anti-Terrorism Security Department and the psionic team. Let's talk about the clues we have now. No clues at the moment. West looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. Then gather our people. Let's discuss the specifics of the situation. Everyone went to the meeting room. Chen Zhao saw that Dongye Tianxi and Nagasaka Reiko had come in together. When Nagasaka Reiko entered the room, she immediately gave Chen Zhao a 90-degree bow. President, hello. This is my first time attending an official meeting. Please take care of me. Sitting in his seat, Chen Zhao covered his face and rubbed his forehead. Dongye Tianxi was rather awkward too. He pushed Nagasaka Reiko. Reiko, go sit down. Nagasaka Reiko was an unofficial member and also an international student at UCLA. So, she didn't come to the headquarters often. Moreover, she'd missed a few of the Supernatural Society's activities due to various reasons. She'd gone abroad to study with her family's mission. But she hadn't made any progress. So, she was very discouraged. Luckily, she didn't miss it this time. She finally had a chance to show off her abilities. When West saw that almost everyone had arrived, he asked for everyone to quiet down before explaining the incident in detail. If any of you have any opinions, suggestions, or different opinions, you can speak now, Klaus said. At this moment, Klaus said, there's too little effective information at the moment. The first thing we need to confirm is the other party's motive. Regardless of whether these octopuses are the product of an individual or some organization, they must have a motive for releasing them. Is it purely to attack ordinary people? To create chaos? Or is there a deeper goal? Only the L.A. coastline? Nagasaka Reiko asked. Only the L.A. coastline so far, West said. Then we can ignore whether the subsequent incidents will spread. What we can confirm is that the source should be within L.A. or nearby waters, so the L.A. coastline happened first, Nagasaka Reiko said. We can investigate whether there are any related or similar research departments in L.A. and the surrounding areas. West nodded. Indeed, we can research in this area. An elite, Ruan Faxben said. Come with me to fish out some mutated octopuses. I want to study them. Sure. Although the situation was still developing, it was still under control. If they didn't solve it soon, it would soon go out of the anti-terrorism department's control. If similar incidents happen in other areas, report to me immediately, Chen Zhao said. President, do you know any researchers who study octopuses? Find one and ask. Air. Chen Zhao thought about it. Should he ask Wright? Chapter 2386. Hi, Wright. Wright looked up at Chen Zhao, who opened the office door. She was surprised. Chen Zhao hadn't come to school for almost 2 months. The school only gave him the title of professor. He didn't have a salary or a position. Chen, how come you're free to come to school today? Chen Zhao looked at Wright resentfully. I'm a teacher here. Is it weird that I'm here? Hee. Wright laughed coldly. Chen Zhao opened the fridge and took out a can of beer. Only Wright had a fridge in the entire school. Only she would put beer in the fridge. Okay. I'm here to see you. Ha. What's with that look? Can't I come to see you? Tell me, what do you want? Chen Zhao chuckled. Other than that, I also want to ask you something. What is it? Does our school have a marine biology expert? Chen Zhao asked. Huh? Why are you asking? Are you planning to change your major to marine biology? No, just discussing academic issues, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Wright narrowed her eyes at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's medical skills were very high and he even had his own academic research. However, Chen Zhao definitely wasn't an academic. Wright didn't believe that Chen Zhao would suddenly change his nature and go into academia. Why are you looking for a marine biology expert? Like I said, we're just discussing academic issues, Chen Zhao answered seriously. Wright stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao returned Wright's gaze with a cheeky grin. In the end, Wright couldn't get any more explanation from Chen Zhao's face. Okay, our school does have a marine biology expert, Nanston Chilla. But he's only in name. We provide the funding while he's in charge of research and sharing the results. How do you contact him? What do I get? I'll give the school an extra $1 million this year, Chen Zhao said. Only then did Wright nod in satisfaction. This is his name card. Take it. Hello? Are you Professor Nanston Chilla? Who are you? Hello? I'm a professor from UCLA. Principal Wright gave me your contact details, Chen Zhao said. I heard from her that you specialize in marine biology? Yes, what's the matter? Hearing that Chen Zhao was a professor from UCLA, Nanston Kira's voice softened significantly. After all, he was a professor at UCLA in name and received funding from the university. I have some questions about marine biology that I want to ask you. I wonder if Professor Nanston is free? I would like to visit you in person. Of course. When is it convenient for you? Anytime, as long as you're free. I need to conduct an experiment this afternoon. If it's convenient for you, come to my research institute at 7 in the evening, Nanston Killa said after some thought. All right, I'll be there on time. In the evening, after applying medicine for Feilai, Chen Zhao hurried out the door. Feilai's injuries weren't serious, and her constitution was much better than normal people's. With Chen Zhao's care, she was almost fully recovered. As for the lost vitality, Chen Zhao was still making potions. However, it wasn't a big problem. Chen Zhao had a lot of choices now. For example, the huge red eagle. It was a great lord-level undying bird. However, he couldn't use the parts from the undying bird directly. At least, he couldn't increase vitality with just one bite. After half an hour of driving, Chen Zhao arrived at the door of an oval-shaped building beside a river. Honk, honk. Chen Zhao honked. A head popped out of the guard room. Hello? What's the matter? Is this the Marine Biology Research Institute? Yes. I have an appointment with Professor Nanston here at 7 o'clock. Please contact Professor Nanston. Okay. Please wait. A while later, the guard let them in. A young man in a white coat stood at the door. Hello, are you Professor Chen? Hello, Professor Nanston. Chen Zhao said politely. You look much younger than I thought. I'm not Professor Nanston. I'm his student, Isaac. Hello. Please follow me. Professor Nanston is waiting for you. Isaac led the way. After a few steps, he said, Professor Chen, you're younger than I thought too. I just take good care of myself. Of course, yellow people look younger than white people of the same age. Professor Chen, what are you an expert in? I study medicine. Chen Zhao answered. Chen Zhao looked at the individual rooms along the way. The layout here was quite special. Part of it was below the horizon. The other side was the river. The walls were made of high-strength tempered glass. The research institute wasn't small. There were many people too. There were many researchers walking back and forth. There were also some huge aquarium tanks. There was even a very large aquarium tank with 2 white whales in it. A bearded man in a white coat was in front of the aquariums, recording data. Isaac pushed open the door and knocked on the glass. Professor Nanston. Nanston Killa turned to look at Chen Zhao at the door, slightly surprised. He'd already guessed Chen Zhao's identity. Of course, he was surprised at first because of Chen Zhao's skin color. Hello, Professor Chen. Welcome. Hello, Professor Nanston. The two shook hands. Chen Zhao looked at the aquarium before him. 2 white whales were swimming in it. If there is any animal in nature that is the most intelligent, it was definitely not a dog, nor was it a primate like an ape or a monkey. They were whales, especially white whales. It could be said to be the best in the entire natural world. Moreover, the white whale's food consisted of small and medium-sized fish. Therefore, they posed no threat to humans. However, it was also because of their position in the food chain and their docile nature. As a result, they were hunted and killed in large numbers. White whales could be found in most aquariums around the world. As long as the white whale was in contact with humans for a year, it would be able to understand most of the instructions given by humans. Their IQ was very high, almost equivalent to that of an 8-year-old human child. Nanston Killa noticed that Chen Zhao was staring at the white whale in the aquarium and smiled. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, they are indeed beautiful. They are like water spirits. If they weren't in the aquarium, they would be even more beautiful. Chapter 2387. Nansadunkara looked at Chen Zhao, a bit surprised. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to say something like this. Actually, when Chen Zhao said this, he was a bit disgusted by himself. But this was also because people were complicated, even though he was doing the same thing. When he saw others do this, he would feel emotional. However, Nansadunkara treated Chen Zhao's emotional words as an animal protector. He also studied marine animals, so he naturally had a good impression of Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, do you like animals? Kind of. Chen Zhao smiled. Should he use this to get close to him? I also have a few sharks, Chen Zhao said. A tiger shark and a few rat sharks. Huh? I thought you didn't like to keep marine animals in aquariums? I didn't say I kept them in an aquarium. I didn't say that I kept them in an aquarium. In fact, I have a private beach, and these sharks trespassed into my private waters. One time I went fishing and threw in some raw meat, but it was eaten by those sharks. I was so angry that I kept throwing food at them, trying to catch them. But these guys were too cunning, they only ate the bait and never took the bait. Every time I went out to sea, I would fight with those sharks, and they seemed to have identified my boat. They would follow me every time, and after a while we became familiar with each other. Once, I accidentally fell off the boat, and they rushed towards me. At that time, I thought I was going to be eaten by the sharks, but the biggest of them, the tiger shark, held me on the surface of the sea and didn't eat me. From then on, I had a different impression of marine life. Later on, those sharks settled down near my private beach, and I often fed them. At first, I was more cautious, but gradually, I started to go into the water to play with them. Now, I'm very familiar with them. They have never attacked me, and will help me chase away unfamiliar sharks. They and I are already a family. Chun Zhao completely changed the process of getting to know the 5 tiger generals. He, Amon, and Little Nine had completely ignored the matter of them chasing after them. Nansadunkara's face was filled with disbelief. Can I see those sharks? Of course, Chun Zhao said. After all, he had a favor to ask now, so he couldn't reject Nansadunkara's request. Other than sharks, there's also a family of dolphins. Once, when I was walking on the beach, an adult dolphin was stranded. I sent it back into the sea. That dolphin and its family have been living on the beach ever since. They also got to know my shark friends. Unbelievable. I've never seen sharks and dolphins coexist peacefully, Nansadunkara said in amazement. Nanstankira said in amazement. Their relationship is like that of natural enemies. Large sharks will attack dolphins, and groups of dolphins will also attack sharks. When is it convenient for me to see it? Nansadunkara studied marine life. Of course, he was very interested in the sharks and dolphins Chun Zhao mentioned. Of course, anytime. Can I now? Now? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. What do I need to bring? A diving suit? My villa at the coastline has specialized diving equipment. You don't need to bring it there. Chun Zhao had wanted to go straight to the point, but seeing how excited Southampton was, he could only take him to Moon Villa. Of course, Isaac was going with them. It was different from the fanaticism of Southtown Chilla. Isaac was more rational. He didn't believe Chun Zhao's words. It wasn't that Chun Zhao wanted to pull something from Nanstan Key. Perhaps Chun Zhao had made it up to get closer to her. The things Chun Zhao said, such as the shark saving him and they becoming good friends, or the dolphin and shark becoming friendly neighbors, seemed impossible. In addition, what he couldn't believe the most was how could a tiger shark and a rat shark act together. Although they were both sharks, they were different species. Tiger sharks are the most dangerous sharks. They are like the tiger, the king of the forest in the sea. They wouldn't move in groups, let alone with different types of sharks. As for the rat sharks, they were a pack of wolves in the sea. They were greedy and cunning, so they would not act together with the tiger sharks. Of course, Chun Zhao and Nansadunkara were chatting happily right now, so he wouldn't expose Chun Zhao's lies. But as long as they reached the place, these lies would naturally fall apart. Let's see how he'll smooth things over when the time comes. Isaac didn't believe Chun Zhao's bullshit, but he realized that Chun Zhao was really rich. At least the car he was in right now was worth a lot. When they arrived at the Bright Moon Villa, Isaac and Southsidunkara were shocked by the scenery and scale of the Bright Moon Villa. This wasn't just fucking rich. It was really, really rich. At least, Minghua Villa was several times larger than the Marine Biology Research Institute. After Isaac and Nansadunkara got out of the car, they looked at the wide underground garage. There were a few supercars parked there. Moreover, the automatic butler system didn't need Chun Zhao to press the switch or give orders. Wherever they went, the place would light up in advance. Taking the elevator from the underground garage to the hall, Nansadunkara realized that the place was less lively. It seems like no one has lived here for a long time. Oh, I moved to another place in winter. The sea breeze here is too strong. My kids are too young and don't like the cold wind. I'll move over when the weather gets warmer. Isaac and Nansadunkara were both shocked. Chun Zhao was too rich. The other place probably wouldn't be worse than this place. Chun Zhao took out his diving equipment and put one on himself. Let's go into the sea. Professor Chun? Are you sure you can find them? Isaac didn't really want to make the situation too awkward, especially after knowing that Chun Zhao was rich, a super rich one at that. Isaac felt that it was best to help Chun Zhao find a way out. Don't worry. Every time I go into the sea, they'll find me. They can find my scent. That's right. Sharks have the sharpest sense of smell among marine animals. Even dozens of nautical miles away, they can smell some special scents. Isaac had no choice. He'd given Qinzhao a way out. If he didn't, what else could he do? After going into the sea from the beach, Isaac felt that Qinzhao's wealth had already exceeded his imagination. Should I suck up to him? Forget it. I'll think of a way to get closer to him later. Now that he was in the sea, the water was still a bit cold. After all, it was only a little more than a month. Chapter 2388. Isaac wasn't like Nance and Kira. Nance and Kira was purely a researcher. On the other hand, Isaac's education wasn't low and his talent wasn't bad. However, he cared more about whether he could make a name for himself. He didn't become Nance and Kira's student and assistant to dedicate himself to science. What he wanted more was to be rewarded with fame and fortune. However, the research results of the Marine Biology Research Institute couldn't be turned into profits yet. While Nance and Kira was famous internationally, he didn't get any benefits as a student. Now, he felt that Qinzhao was a big tree, so he wanted to climb up. To put it bluntly, Isaac wanted to be Qinzhao's lackey. However, Qinzhao didn't seem to understand Isaac's passionate heart. After the three entered the sea, they slowly dived into the depths. Of course, the so-called depth was only a dozen meters. The heads of their diving suits all had searchlights, so they could see clearly within a certain range. Just then, a black shadow suddenly flashed before their eyes. Oh! Isaac was startled. The black shadow was fast, but it was definitely huge. Very, very huge. Just then, Qinzhao swam before the two and made an okay gesture. Before they could understand, Isaac and Nance and Kira saw a terrifying figure appear behind Qinzhao. It was a huge shark, very big. The two were scared out of their wits. They frantically made hand gestures at Qinzhao. Qinzhao actually knew what was behind him. Looking back, he reached out and hugged Old Guan's head. It was the second of the 5 tiger generals, Old Zhang. Because Qinzhao had fed Old Guan something special, he was more than 8 meters tall now. Isaac and Nance and Kira watched Qinzhao play with the giant before them. They were both dumbfounded. Tiger shark. However, this tiger shark was a little too big. Isaac found it even more unbelievable. Could humans really interact with sharks so intimately? Some divers would interact with sharks, but most of the time they only interacted with small sharks. The largest sharks were only 1 or 2 meters. These sharks wouldn't hunt for medium or large prey. Therefore, they didn't pose much of a threat to humans and wouldn't attack them. That was why they seemed to be able to interact with humans. In fact, that was not the case at all. If they were to interact with tiger sharks, great white sharks, and so on, see if they don't bite them to death. At this moment, another gigantic figure appeared. A great white shark? Isaac and Nancy Kira wet their pants again. The eldest of the 5 tiger generals, Old Guan, had arrived. Old Guan nudged Qinzhao with his huge head, looking very intimate. Because he had been busy recently, Qinzhao had people feed him on his behalf. So they missed him very much. Behind Old Guan were the 3 rat sharks. The 5 tiger generals had gathered. Nancy Kira was pleasantly surprised. On the other hand, Isaac's face was full of disbelief. Really? Do great white sharks and tiger sharks really coexist with mouse sharks? Great white sharks and tiger sharks were the most dangerous sharks. At the same time, they were also the sharks that injured people the most. Their diet also included rat sharks. But now they actually coexisted completely. This was truly incredible. However, regardless of whether it was great white sharks, tiger sharks, or mouse sharks, they all seemed to be much larger than normal sharks of the same species. Qinzhao interacted with the 5 tiger generals for a while. Then he turned to Isaac and Nancy and gestured for them to come over and get to know the 5 tiger generals. But now, both of them hesitated. Isaac just wanted to escape back to the shore. At this moment, Nancy suddenly calmed down. He knew the danger of tiger sharks and great white sharks better than anyone else. They did not necessarily like to eat people, but they really liked to attack people. Qinzhao shook his head and waved again. telling them that the 5 tiger generals were not in danger. Nancy Kira thought for a while. Finally, he carefully reached out and touched Old Guan's head. Old Guan pushed Nancy's palm away, swam one round, and returned to the original spot. He pushed Nancy's palm again. That feeling was similar to humans clapping hands with each other. Of course, sharks could not do such complicated movements. Moreover, their gills were special. They needed to swim continuously to breathe oxygen in the water. Nancy finally relaxed. It seemed that the 5 sharks really would not attack them. He started interacting with the other sharks one by one. Suddenly, Nancy, Chilla, and Isaac felt the water pressure behind them again. Turning their heads, they saw a white shadow pass by them at an extremely fast speed, charging directly at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the figure, but he was dragged in the sea by the figure. Itzhak and Nancy could see Chen Zhao's searchlight go one round in the water and then return. Dolphin. It was a bottlenose dolphin. That dolphin swam really fast. After taking Chen Zhao one round, the bottlenose dolphin returned to the original spot. Then it started pushing its mouth against Chen Zhao's, acting like a spoiled child. Chen Zhao had to reach out and keep comforting the dolphin. As for the surrounding sharks, they had no intention of attacking at all. Itzhak was shocked. Could sharks and dolphins really coexist? Just then, another adult dolphin brought a few underage dolphins over. Only now did Itzhak believe what Chen Zhao had said earlier was true. After interacting with the 5 tiger generals and the dolphin family, Chen Zhao led Nancy and Itzhak to the surface of the sea. Nancy pulled down the respirator. While panting, she said excitedly, Really, it's unbelievable. I've never been so close to a great white shark and a tiger shark." Itzhak was still in shock. But thinking of the terrifying sharks in the water below them, Itzhak decided to return to the shore first. Isaac didn't tell Nancy Kira that he had a phobia of the abyss. Deep phobia was actually a great psychological fear when the bottom of the body could not be seen. The surface of the sea was the most common deep area. "Professor Nancy, let's go to the shore first. Okay, too bad the oxygen tank is out of gas. Otherwise, I really want to continue interacting with those cute guys down there." Cute guys? Those guys weren't cute at all. They were all dangerous and deadly creatures. Zack thought silently in his heart. He only calmed down when he stepped on the beach. "Oh, right, Professor Chin, why are you looking for Professor Nancy? You didn't seem to say." Chapter 2389. Isaac brought this up on his own, mainly because he had the same thoughts as before. He had to please Qin Zhao. He usually couldn't come into contact with rich people. Now that he'd met one, he couldn't miss this opportunity. Oh, look at my memory. Only then did Nanston remember. Qin Zhao had come to consult him on academic issues. Nancy Kira had completely forgotten about it. His mind was filled with things like great white sharks, tiger sharks, rat sharks, and dolphins. "Oh, Professor Chun, you're a medical specialist, right? Why are you looking for an oceanographer like me?" Qin Zhao glanced at Nancy Kira, who also felt a bit embarrassed. Nanston's EQ was too low. He didn't know how to communicate at all. "It's like this. I recently accepted 2 patients. They were bitten by octopuses and then seemed to have been poisoned. They're still unconscious." "Are you sure they were bitten by octopuses?" "Yes, I'm very sure. The octopus's toxin is very low, and it's a non-fatal paralysis toxin. Unless you catch a few hundred octopuses, extract all the toxin, and drink it in one go, it won't cause any harm to the human body." Nanston Kira's tone was very certain. After all, this was his professional knowledge. Most of the time, his words were the truth. "But they were indeed bitten by octopuses," Qin Zhao said. "Then they fainted. That's too strange," Nanston murmured. "Are you sure they weren't attacked by other creatures before or at the time?" Nanston Chilla murmured. "Could also be a sea serpent or it could be a cockroach." "Professor Nanston, I respect your professionalism, but please don't doubt my professionalism. I know the symptoms of sea snake venom, and I also know the symptoms of conchus conchus, as well as their treatment methods. Before I came to you, I brought the octopus that attacked the two injured people to an expert for identification. No one seems to recognize this octopus. It seems like it's a new species, or it might have mutated under certain circumstances. Nanston wasn't angry because of Chun Zhao's rather radical tone. Instead, he paid attention to the latter part of Chun Zhao's sentence. A new species and mutation. Marine creatures often had mutations, but they were mostly single individuals. It was very rare to find group mutations. Since two people were attacked at the same time, it meant that this was not a single mutation. In order to understand more about the octopus toxin and the treatment plan, I brought the octopus to a professional organization for screening. Why didn't you send it to me immediately? I'm the most professional and authoritative marine biology expert. Nanston Kira's tone was a little arrogant with a hint of doubt. That's why I'm here now, isn't it? What about the octopus sample? Did you bring it? Is it alive? The samples are in that facility. I want to see a sample of this octopus. I'll send it over tomorrow. Why not now? Professor Nancy, do you think he's still working? My research institute is here. Isaac felt that if he didn't speak, he might anger Qin Zhao and ruin his plan. Professor Nancy, our research institute is different from other institutions. We can't use our standards to demand others. Nancy thought for a moment before nodding reluctantly. All right, but I still hope to see the sample tomorrow. If Professor Chun is busy, I'll be happy to help deliver it, Isaac said. Isaac said, Professor Chun, if it's convenient for you, could you leave your contact information? Okay, here's my phone number. Chun Zhao gave his number to Isaac. At the same time, he said, Professor Nancy, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Yes, go ahead. With current technology, is it possible to modify other creatures? More accurately, can it modify mutated octopuses? Nanston Kira thought for a moment. The vast majority of mutants are uncertain mutations that cannot be controlled or even determined. With the current technology, it can be modified to cause this creature to mutate. However, this kind of modification is also uncontrollable. However, the creature to be modified must first meet a few conditions. Its vitality is tenacious, some dominant genes are unstable, and recessive genes are stable. The octopus just happens to meet these conditions. Does the octopus meet these conditions? Of course, I don't need to say that it has strong vitality. Even if its head is cut open and its tentacles are chopped off, it can still live for a long time. Secondly, the dominant genes are the so-called external characteristics, such as skin color and size. Even if the octopus is the same species, their size can fluctuate greatly. Another example is that they can freely change their skin color. When they live in different sea areas, water temperatures, and environments, they can adapt and change very quickly. This is all because the dominant genes are unstable. The recessive genes are stable because of their body functions, food, movement patterns, and reproduction methods. These are all recessive genes. No matter how the environment changes, they won't change. Nancy Chilla paused, then added, Actually, the so-called modification is mostly stimulated by external environmental factors to make living creatures adapt to changes. It's very different from the modification in real scientific terms. The so-called mutation should actually be called mutation. So the current technology can't achieve mutation through radiation like in the movies? It can be done, but there is no clear direction of modification. Catch 10,000 or 100,000 octopuses and then let them receive stimulating drugs or small amounts of radiation. One or two of them may survive and mutate. Moreover, you can't be sure what this mutation will become. Maybe it will have an extra tentacle, or maybe it will have an extra head, or maybe it will have hair on its body, and so on. In short, it's uncertain and uncontrollable. And most of the time, the mutation is unstable. If it's a mutation of a dominant gene, it won't be fatal because most of the dominant genes are changes in physical characteristics, while the mutation of a recessive gene will directly change the behavior or even the way of survival of the creature itself. Therefore, in most cases, the mutated creature will die directly or in a short period of time. Is there no successful example? Although there is in theory, it's very difficult to actually do it. It can even be said to be impossible. At least for now, it's very difficult. The devil is beside meth, devil is beside me. Chapter 2390. Perhaps Nancy Kira had a good impression of Chun Zhao. Or perhaps he wanted to study the shark and dolphin family here. His attitude was a bit arrogant, but it wasn't that he wanted to be disrespectful to Chun Zhao. It was just his personality. Simply put, he had low EQ and high IQ. He spoke without considering other people's feelings. Although it was hard to communicate with Nancy Kira. However, Chun Zhao didn't plan on developing a friendship with him. Where do you live? I'll take you home. The two didn't stand on ceremony with Chun Zhao. Send Nancy Chilla home first. Isaac, where do you live? 115 East Street. After a moment of silence, Isaac asked, Mr. Chun, do you own a pharmaceutical company? No. Chun Zhao replied indifferently. Mr. Chun, there's something that Professor Nancy didn't make clear, Isaac said meaningfully. Chun Zhao drove and glanced at Isaac from the corner of his eye. Oh? What didn't he say? He's a marine biology expert and even the best marine biology researcher, but he's not the most proficient in marine mollusks. Are you? Chun Zhao asked. I'm more proficient than him, Isaac said confidently. Earlier, Professor Nancy said that it's theoretically possible to make octopuses mutate through artificial stimulation, but because of the destruction of recessive genes, their functions will die and they won't be able to survive for long. Yes, that's what Professor Nancy said. Is there a problem with what he said? No, but it's not unsolvable. How? Just like a human individual, if he suddenly changes his lifestyle, habits, or even eating habits, the human individual will suffer from illness or even death. It's the same for octopuses. Of course, the mutation we're talking about is a more intense and radical method, so octopuses can hardly survive. If you want the mutated gene to survive, you can only do so through reproduction. Just like the survival of the fittest in the theory of evolution, after a dozen generations of reproduction, the mutated gene will become stable and a new species will appear. What you said about relying on reproduction to stabilize genes, there is a big flaw in this. The first-generation mutant can be cultivated into a second-generation mutant through artificial reproduction by extracting seminal vesicles. But the genes of the second-generation mutant must still be in an unstable stage. Can they survive to maturity? Not to mention a dozen generations of reproduction. Octopuses can lay up to 100,000 eggs at a time. Among these 100,000 eggs, there will always be a small number of second-generation mutants that can survive. This is a matter of probability, because the large number increases the success rate of the experiment. If it were an ordinary mammal or an animal that lays fewer eggs, it would be much more difficult. These second-generation mutants that survived will be bred into the third and fourth generations. Their offspring's survival rate will gradually increase, and their genetic stability will gradually increase. Finally, they will become a new species. It does sound possible, but what about the actual operation? Of course, the actual operation is not as simple as the theory. This requires the accumulation of a huge amount of research and experimental data. Looks like you have experience in these kinds of experiments. Not me, but my senior and Professor Nanston's assistant, Homesius. 5 years ago, when I first came to the Marine Biology Research Institute, I was arranged to work under Homesius. He's an expert in marine soft-bodied creatures. I worked under Homesius for a year and came into contact with large amounts of experiments and data. I'm already very familiar with the entire process. However, for some reason, Professor Nanston and Homesius got into a conflict. They argued intensely in the office, and then Homesius left the institute in anger with his experimental data. I replaced Homesius and became Professor Nanston's assistant. Huh? Have you been in contact with Homesius all these years? Chun Zhao asked. 2 years ago, Homesius was looking for investors who were willing to fund his research. At that time, I could feel his disappointment. He looked for many people, but none of them were able to get an investor. The next year, things seemed to have changed. At that time, I could feel the change in his tone and state of mind. Later, he invited me to quit my current job and return to his side to continue being his assistant, but I refused. Chun Zhao glanced at Isaac. He had a rough idea of what kind of person Isaac was. They hadn't interacted much, but Isaac's profit-oriented personality was already unmistakable. Although pure scientific researchers like Nance and Kira deserve more respect. But in reality, people like Isaac were more comfortable. They knew how to get along with people and not make people feel disgusted. To Isaac, it didn't matter who his assistant was. There was no difference at all. Why would he give up on the relatively stable Nance and Kira and choose Homesius, whose future was uncertain? This wasn't an academic question, but a practical one. Nance and Kira hadn't given up on him, and Homesius still hoped that he could continue being his assistant. This meant that there was no problem with Isaac's abilities. Later, he told me that his research had been valued by investors, and that he had received an investment, and that he had formed his own research team. I was very happy for him, but after a few times of contact, he told me that his research needed to be kept secret, so he couldn't keep in touch with me. After that, our contact decreased. In the next 3 years, I only contacted him twice. The first time was when he sent me his blessings at Christmas, and the other time was when he complained that he didn't have a capable assistant. His assistants couldn't understand his intentions at all. As he spoke, Isaac couldn't help but glance at Chun Zhao. He'd said the last sentence on purpose, as if to prove his value. "Do you know who invested in his research?" Chun Zhao asked. "No." He said that it was a clause in the confidentiality agreement. "Then do you know where his research institute is?" "No." "Do you have his contact information now? Or his home address?" "I know where his home is, but I'm not sure if he still lives there." Chun Zhao glanced at Isaac. "Can I ask a practical question?" "Please." "From your professional point of view, how do you turn your professional knowledge into economic benefits?" "Breeding and cultivation are currently the most widely used field of my professional knowledge." 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 2391. Chun Zhao rubbed his chin. "If you have a great research job and a high-paying job, what would you choose?" "It's a high-paying job," Isaac answered calmly. His goal had never been to dedicate his life to science. What he needed was a high salary, fame, and a good life. He didn't want to be asked by Nance and Kira to work until dawn in the research institute every day. He didn't want to go into the sea to interact with sharks in the cold. "If there's a job on an island that's about to be developed," Chun Zhao said, "there are some marine creatures on the island that are clearly different from the commonly known natural creatures. For example, their size. This island is a tourist island. The owner of the island hopes to use these marine creatures to attract tourists, but at the same time, he doesn't want people to be overly suspicious of the origin of these marine creatures. What should I do?" "It's simple," Isaac replied with a smile. "How?" "Hire me. I'm all ears. Before my island is announced, I will first publish some papers to establish the theory that these marine creatures should exist in the first place. At the same time, it will also give the public some time to adapt and buffer, so that when these marine creatures really appear in the eyes of the world, it will not cause such a strong impact." Chun Zhao suddenly stopped the car. Isaac was stunned. He watched as Chun Zhao stopped the car on the road in the middle of nowhere. He didn't understand what Chun Zhao wanted to do. Chun Zhao suddenly dug around in his pocket. Isaac suspected that Chun Zhao was going to take out a gun. Of course not. Chun Zhao took out a checkbook. He wrote a number on it and handed it to Isaac. Isaac jumped when he saw the numbers on the check. $1 million. It was definitely an astronomical number for him right now. "Chun, Professor, Mr. Chun, what do you mean? Please quit your current job. I need you to work for me." "Can I think about it?" "I just need you to answer. Accept or reject." I accept." "Later, you'll receive a confidentiality agreement," Chun Zhao said. "This is my investment plan and you're a part of it. Of course, I don't need a marine biologist. At least I don't need the best. Of course, I'm not just a marine biologist. I can also be a spokesperson." Isaac was very smart. He immediately understood what Chun Zhao needed. What Chun Zhao needed was someone to endorse his books. Someone with a relevant background, such as a professional who had been studying marine biology for a long time. I will definitely cooperate with Mr. Chen's plan. Back to business, Chen Zhao said. I want to find your former senior, Homesius. Originally, Isaac was very tired at this moment. But suddenly, he didn't feel tired anymore. His reaction fully demonstrated the saying, money makes the world go round. Money can solve most problems. Only a few problems require more money. However, when Isaac brought him to Homesis' house, Homesis wasn't home. And from the weeds in the courtyard, it could be seen that no one had done any maintenance for a long time. Let me see if I can get Homesis' number. Isaac tried to no avail. He dialed, but no one answered. Isaac shook his head at Chen Zhao. Fine. If you can't find him, then forget it. I'll send you back. When Chen Zhao returned home, it was already 2 in the morning. While he was showering, West called. West, what's up? President, the number of people who encountered the mutant octopus has increased to 91. The death toll has also increased to 3. Hearing this, Chen Zhao couldn't help but frown. Didn't they lock down all the beaches in LA? Of course not completely. Other than private beaches, some people sneak onto the beaches. The Anti-Terrorism Security Department doesn't have enough people to lock down all the beaches. The only thing they can do is inform the departments in charge of the public coastlines and have them send out notices. Actually, this kind of lockdown doesn't have any enforcement effect. West paused and said, also, the Anti-Terrorism Security Department is under a lot of pressure now. Sealing off the coastline is a huge loss to the entire city government every day. Also, fishing boats in the open sea have also caught these mutated octopuses and have been attacked. Did you find any useful clues on your side? Not yet. President, what about you? Help me find a person. He's a marine biology expert who specializes in marine soft-bodied creatures. His name is Homesis. Is he the key person in this incident? I can't say for sure yet, but I heard some of his recent research directions from other people. I suspect that he's related to this incident. That's good. I'll mobilize the forces at hand to find his whereabouts. After hanging up, Chen Zhao wanted to go straight to bed, but then he remembered something. He picked up his phone and called Toddy Belster. Of course, he couldn't use his own phone to call Toddy Belster. People in their line of work always carried some disposable SIM cards. After asking Belster out, Chen Zhao sneaked into Binance's room. Binance, wake up. Uncle. Morning. Binance squinted. He couldn't open his eyes at all. His expression was uncomfortable. Morning. What do you want for breakfast? I don't want anything. Let me sleep a bit more. Didn't you say that you want me to take you on a mission? Whoa, Binance bounced up from the bed. Uncle, there's a mission? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Binance glanced out the window. What time is it? Chen Zhao checked the time. Morning 2:50. Let me sleep a bit more. Binance fell straight down again. Raise the temperature in Binance's room. Let him feel the Hawaiian sea breeze. Binance gave in. He couldn't stand the wind at 33 degrees Celsius. After a while, Binance finally got up to wash and change his clothes. Uncle, where are we going now? It's a secret. Just follow me, Chen Zhao said calmly. When the two left, it was already 3:30 in the morning. Binance was rather excited. He wasn't worried about any danger. As a child from a supernatural family, he'd encountered supernatural incidents at a young age. Chapter 2392. Uncle, is an evil schemer coming out to cause trouble? Or is an ancient demon about to break the seal? Let him break the seal so that we can beat him up. Chen Zhao just drove in silence, keeping a smile on his face. This time, Chen Zhao and Toddy Belster were meeting in a dense forest beside a highway. There weren't even any road signs. They were going to meet at the last road sign. Drive at 80 kilometers per hour for 15 minutes, then get off and walk left for 2 kilometers. When Chen Zhao and Binance arrived, Toddy Belster wasn't there yet. Uncle, what are we waiting for? I know. Is it because we're waiting for time? Something special will happen at certain times. Yeah, something like that. Chun Zhao nodded. Then Binance, you're still young. Huh? What does it have to do with my age? Don't be so talkative when you're young. Suddenly, rustling sounds came from the forest. Binance stood up with a shiver. It seemed that he was still nervous. Soon, Chun Zhao saw Toddy Belster in a mess. There was even dirt on his face. Phew, President, let's meet at another restaurant next time. I'm so tired. It's so hard to find. I almost got lost. Uncle, is he a helper? Helper? President, do you need my help with anything? Toddy Belster's heart trembled. Wasn't it very dangerous for Chun Zhao to need help with something? Also, why did he bring a kid here? Ever since Toddy Belster became a spy, he started to be paranoid. From then on, he began to be paranoid. Whatever he did and whatever others said to him, he would speculate for a long time. Every time someone approached him, he would suspect that the other party was testing him. If he continued, he felt that he would get an occupational disease. I've already thought of a way to help you with your last request, Chun Zhao said. Huh? You have a way? What way? Is there a way for me to master powerful spells? Chun Zhao snapped his fingers. No. Take off your shirt. Huh? Don't ask and talk. Hurry, it's late and everyone's busy. Okay. Toddy Belster was not very willing. Taking off his shirt, Toddy Belster shivered as he felt the cold wind blowing on his body. And then, lie down. Toddy Belster looked around. The ground was a little damp and full of withered leaves and weeds, as well as some messy sharp rocks. Binance, take a look at this magic circle and embroider one on him. Uncle, you can't say that the magic array is embroidered. It should be inscribed. It's more or less the same. Anyway, put one on him. Uncle, you didn't call me here to carry out any mission, did you? Binance, some missions are not as simple as they seem. There are secrets hidden behind them. You might even be saving the world right now. Don't underestimate everything you do. Him? Me? Save the world? Do you think I'm joking? No. I'm suspecting that you're lying to me. Ask him yourself if he is about to conquer a dreadful place. Yes, Bermuda, the land of demons. As a liar, Toddy Belster obviously knew how to cooperate with Chun Zhao. Bermuda? Uncle, you're saying that we might have to go to Bermuda, right? Yes, he's the key person to Bermuda. Okay, I understand. Binance's interest was piqued once again. Based on Chun Zhao's limited experience with children, this was what he had learned. If he wanted Eva to follow his orders, he had to fool him. Binance walked up to Toddy Belster. Uncle, hold him down. Worried, Toddy Belster looked at Chun Zhao and asked, Will it hurt? I don't know. Then why does he want you to hold me down? Maybe it's to prevent you from getting crooked. Chun Zhao had already grabbed Toddy Belster. I won't move. I sleep peacefully and in a good position. You probably can't sleep, Binance said, smiling. Ah! Chun Zhao looked at Binance with admiration. Suddenly, Chun Zhao felt that Binance had the potential to be cunning at such a young age. Was tattooing painful? Anyone with experience would know that it was. The pain of a magic array was 100 times worse than a tattoo. Actually, a tattoo pen burned the skin with a high-intensity laser. If it wasn't continuous, it would just feel like a needle poking into the skin. But a magic array was different. It was continuous and excruciating pain. That kind of painful feeling was like taking a needle and poking it with force. It didn't stop for a second. Don't move. It'll be done soon. Chun Zhao held Toddy down tightly. Right now, Toddy's face was completely red. The veins on his neck and forehead were bulging. Coupled with his heart-wrenching screams, it was easy to imagine how much pain he was in. It won't be fast. It'll take at least an hour, Binance said. An hour? Wait, I don't want to draw anymore. Chun Zhao looked at Binance and rolled his eyes. Do you have to be so direct? Uncle, he has the right to know how much more pain he has to endure. This magic array doesn't look complicated. It's much simpler than the previous one. Why does it take so long? Because it's on a person's body. If it's on the ground, even if there's a mistake, it can be erased and redone. Can't be done on a person, so every mark must be correct. Chun Zhao shrugged and looked at Toddy with pity. Fine, Toddy, bear with it. It's not a big deal. 20 minutes later, Toddy could no longer make a sound. His screams had become hoarse and his resistance was no longer as strong. His limbs were limp on the ground and his eyes were lifeless. His entire body was soaked in cold sweat and his breathing was rapid. Bear with it. It's been 40 minutes. Uncle, only 20 minutes. Toddy Belster cried silently. To him, every minute and every second was so unbearable. His body didn't seem to belong to him anymore. But the pain still belonged to him. Bear with it. Chun Zhao didn't know how to comfort him. It's for your own good. Chapter 2393. Done, Painan said. After 80 minutes, Toddy Belster finally let out a long breath. He'd finally heard this sentence. He'd lived for this sentence. Chun Zhao let go of Toddy too. Toddy Belster shed tears of excitement. Oh, Uncle, he's a regular person. Why didn't you knock him out? Don't you know the high-level hypnosis spell, Banshee's Charm? Why do you keep Uncle Tatai conscious? Chun Zhao and Toddy Belster exchanged glances. Their expressions were rather awkward. Toddy, on the other hand, was both sad and furious. Why didn't you say so earlier? I thought you had some special reason, like the magic formation has to keep the host conscious. Chun Zhao's face twitched. Then why did you only say it now? Because it's over now, right? Okay. Chun Zhao pulled Toddy Belster up. Let's try your magic array. How do I use it? Even though Chun Zhao had prepared it for him, Toddy Belster was still confused. Think of cutting it down in your mind and then snap your fingers. That's it. Toddy Belster was a little surprised. Wasn't it too simple? There were summoners in the psionic team too. Their summoning spells were very complicated and complicated to use. How complicated do you want it to be? Can you do something so complicated? All right. Toddy Belster took a deep breath and took a few steps forward, looking at the tree not far away. Then he snapped his fingers. Crack! Suddenly, a circle of light appeared before Toddy. A white light flashed out from the circle of light. Whoosh, it was a demon with blades in both arms. Slender and tall, it moved as fast as the wind. In an instant, the tree was cut in half. The double-edged demon somersaulted again and landed in front of Toddy Belster. Master. The demon knelt on one knee, its blades supporting its upper body. Toddy's face was filled with shock. This monster, he'd summoned it? Try it on me, Chun Zhao said. This was only a low-level demon. It wasn't strong enough. Ha! Belster stared at Chun Zhao in shock. Stop nagging. Come. Chun Zhao hooked his finger. Go! Toddy Belster pointed at Chun Zhao. The demon didn't waste any time and attacked Chun Zhao directly. Bang! Chun Zhao knocked the demon down with a single punch. Half of the demon's body was also blown to pieces. Continue summoning. Toddy Belster gulped and took a deep breath. Pa, with a snap of his fingers, 10 intermediate demons appeared in front of him. These 10 demons were all from different demon races. However, they were many times stronger than the low-level dual-blade demon from before. The handsome guy had told Chun Zhao about the summoning limit. At most, it could summon 10 ordinary intermediate demons at once. Or he could summon an intermediate demon with a domain. Depending on the summoner's needs, the number and strength of the summoned demons would be different. For example, if it was just to attack an ordinary enemy, it would only summon a low-level demon. Just like the double-edged demon from before. If the enemy was strong, the strength and number of summoned demons would be different according to the summoner's thoughts. For example, in Toddy Belster's eyes, Chun Zhao was a terrifying existence. So, he summoned something close to the highest level of summoning 10 intermediate demons. Of course, he didn't use the highest level of summoning because he thought he was only sparring with Chun Zhao. The magic formation would summon different demons according to Toddy Belster's needs. For example, if Toddy needed protection, he would summon demons that were good at defense. Advanced summoning could only summon 10 intermediate demons or 1 demon with a domain at once. After using advanced summoning, he could continue summoning low-level demons. There was no limit to the number of low-level demons. As long as Toady Belster was willing, he could summon as many as he wanted. Of course, Chun Zhao also had to pay the price with his wealth. Chun Zhao didn't have that much wealth for him to squander. Therefore, there was a limit to the unlimited summoning. The number of summoned demons couldn't exceed the number of enemies. Chun Zhao killed 10 intermediate demons in a row. He felt that Toady Belster's summoning was quite useful. If it was in the past, even Chun Zhao himself would be tempted. But now it was useless to Chun Zhao. It didn't have any practical meaning. Okay, that's enough. Toady Belster had just tried twice. He was still in a state of shock and joy. He wanted to try again, but since Chun Zhao said so, he didn't dare to use Chun Zhao. After all, Chun Zhao was the one who gave him the summoning ability. He didn't think that he had the right to challenge Chun Zhao just because he had the ability. He had a deep impression of Chun Zhao's terror. Back at the headquarters, Toady Belster didn't walk as stealthily as before. Mr. Toady. Just then, Yang walked over. Yang, what's up? Mr. Toady, Miss Westana called you just now, but your phone has no signal. Yeah. Toady was as pretentious as ever. He replied indifferently, She's looking for me? Mr. Toddy, can you tell me how strong you are? Yang stared at Toady Belster. I don't know. Toady Belster smiled faintly. Did Vestana order you to test my strength? Mr. Toady, please forgive me. After all, we're about to conquer Bermuda. I have to know how strong we are. Toady Belster suddenly felt high-spirited and looked Yang up and down a few times. Yang, you should find more people. If it's just you, I'm afraid you won't be able to test my strength. Yang raised an eyebrow. Mr. Toady, sorry. With that, Yang formed a seal with both hands. A large black sword appeared before him. Yang grabbed the sword with his right hand and was about to slash at Toady. But Toady's counterattack was even faster. He only snapped his fingers. In an instant, a tall red figure appeared in front of Toady Belster. Not only was this tall red demon muscular, but his muscles were also like a bodybuilder's. The red demon grabbed Yang's great sword with one hand. Chapter 2394. Where did it come from? Did he summon it? Yang immediately drew his sword and retreated. He looked at the red demon in front of Toady Belster, bewildered. Was it a familiar? The red demon's aura was intimidating, but it wasn't enough to deter him from attacking. This couldn't be Toddy's full strength. Heaven and earth, borrow the power of the universe. Yang shouted. The great sword in his hand was suddenly filled with the power of lightning. It slashed at the red demon. The red demon once again stretched out his hand and grabbed the great sword in his hand. But the next moment, it shrank back as if it had been electrocuted. The red demon was indeed afraid of lightning. Yang immediately increased his strength. Rip. The red demon's shoulder was cut open and it fell to the ground. Oh no, he was too heavy-handed. Yang looked up at Toady and was about to apologize. But Toady Belster snapped her fingers. In an instant, 100 red demons appeared in front of him. Yang was stunned. There was only one thought in his mind. So many he could easily take care of one. Maybe he could even take care of 10. But 100? Yang lost his confidence. Just then, Blitz and the others came out of the headquarters one after another. Blitz knew that Yang had been ordered to test Toddy's strength, but he couldn't say that now. Looking at Yang and Toddy's faces, it seemed they had gone too far. He planned to be the peacemaker. Mr. Toddy, Yang, what are you doing? We're all on the same side. If you have any grudges, why don't you give me face and let it go? Blitz, you're here. Toady Belster was full of confidence as she looked at the approaching Blitz. Your attitude makes me very uncomfortable. I accepted your employment, but that doesn't mean I have to be bullied by you. What does my strength have to do with you? Did I not finish one of the missions you gave me? Mr. Toddy, I think you misunderstood. No need to explain. Come. Toddy shook his head. Don't you want to know how strong I am? All of you come at me together. Mr. Toddy. Toddy, you're too arrogant. Who do you think you are? Mr. Toady, although we respect you, it doesn't mean we're afraid of you. Many people had come to watch the show. But hearing Toddy Belster's words, he couldn't help but be furious. All of them started cursing. Toddy Belster looked unperturbed, completely disregarding those people. With a snap of his fingers, the number of demons at the scene increased once again. There were dozens of giant eyeballs floating in the sky. There were still dozens of winged demons around, and the number of demons on the ground had increased tenfold. They were densely packed like an army. Everyone's expression changed. The ones who had been the loudest earlier were now all shrinking their heads and hiding. An army of demons. Everyone couldn't help but be moved. And look at Toddy Belster's casual movements. It was as if he had done something insignificant. Toddy Belster didn't think she could summon so many demons. At that time, the only thought in his mind was to teach everyone a lesson. And then he summoned so many demons before him. Tear this place down, Toddy Belster ordered. He really wanted to know if the psionic team would flip the table if he tore down their beautiful new headquarters. Wait, Mr. Toady. No. Yonggwa and Blitz's expressions changed drastically. They didn't expect Toddy Belster to be so angry. At least that was what they thought. But they couldn't stop Toddy Belster's demon army. Both of them were angry at Toddy Belster for being so unreasonable. Actually, they didn't understand Toddy's thoughts at all. He wanted the whole world to know how powerful he was. It had been too hard and frustrating to pretend in the past. Now, he didn't have to pretend anymore. The poor would lose themselves when they had money. Toddy Belster was in that situation now. Of course, he still had some rationality. He knew what he should and shouldn't do. For example, he could fall out with the psionic team. Falling out meant that he failed his mission. If he failed, he would face Chun Zhao's anger. No matter how arrogant Toddy was, he wouldn't think that he could challenge Chun Zhao. He could tear down their door, but he couldn't kill them. The stronger he acted, the more the psionic team would respect him. But if he killed them, they would have to answer to the others, no matter how much they wanted talents. So, he hadn't ordered the demon army to kill them yet. In fact, most demons did destruction as their main job. More than 30 people were lying on the ground. The headquarters was already in a mess. Just then, Vestana walked out. No demons attacked her. With a cold expression, she walked up to Toddy Belster step by step. Then she bowed deeply. Mr. Toddy, I'm sorry. Can you please put away these demons? Taking a deep breath, Toddy Belster waved his hand and all the demons disappeared. I don't want the same thing to happen again. Whether it's to doubt me or to test me, I'll be worthy of every dollar you paid me. But I don't want anyone to challenge my bottom line. If it happens again, we won't be colleagues anymore. We'll be enemies. I understand. Vestana nodded. Vestana's attitude was very sincere, as if she deserved the destruction of the headquarters. Book a hotel for me. I'll stay there for a few days. Toddy Belster acted as if he didn't know that he'd done something terrible. Leader, he's too arrogant, Blitz said, his face pale. We need his power, Vestana said. The supernatural organization has Chun Zhao, Vestana said. The other members are all stronger than us. If we don't have a super expert like Toddy Belster, we'll always be on the defensive. We've paid a heavy price this time, but I don't think it's a bad thing. At least we know how strong he is. But his attitude shows that he doesn't care about us at all. He's as greedy as always. He just said that he stayed here for money, but he didn't do anything. From the beginning to the end, he attacked and destroyed the headquarters, but he didn't kill a single person. He knows that other than us, no one else can pay him that much money. Chapter 23:95. Yonggwa and Blitz thought about it and realized that it was indeed true. What was there to be afraid of? Greed was the easiest thing to control. If it were other spiritualists, they might have been able to convince them by using some methods and using threats and promises. But could Toddy Belster use those tricks? It was fine if it was soft, but if it was hard to tell who would fix who. Today, Toddy Belster had shown them his true strength. They were all shocked. He was unreasonably strong. This reminded Vestana of Chun Zhao. He was also unreasonably strong. Who's stronger, him or Chun Zhao? Vestana was an outsider, so her question was the most direct. Hard to say. Yang Gua shook his head. After all, Chun Zhao was a dragon-slaying warrior. His power wasn't as simple as it seemed. Even the strength that he had displayed was not to be underestimated. The strength that Toddy Belster displayed was also not to be underestimated. Also, from the way he'd summoned the demon army, he hadn't used his true power either. From the looks of it, it was really difficult to determine who was stronger and who was weaker. But one thing was for sure, Toddy Belster could compete with Chun Zhao. Because of this, Yang Gua's psychological pressure was greatly reduced. He knew that Chun Zhao didn't have good intentions toward the psionic team. But his identity was awkward. Ever since he'd joined the team, he'd always stayed out of each other's way. He knew that if they fought head-on, it wouldn't benefit the team at all. But it was different now. The team wouldn't win for sure. At least they had a trump card. They weren't completely controlled by the supernatural organization. Yang Gua and Blitz suddenly felt that they hadn't gained nothing this time. After knowing Toddy Belster's power, the psionic team's morale would definitely be boosted. And Toddy Belster seemed angry. But wasn't that asking for benefits from them? If it could be solved with money, it wasn't a problem. What was a headquarters? The psionic team didn't have anything else but money. Maybe we can test the supernatural organization, Vestana said, her eyes sparkling. In that instant, Yang Gua's scalp went numb. Vestana, you're crazy. I'm not. Don't you think it's time for us to counterattack? No, you still don't understand the difference between the psionic team and the supernatural organization. He's not our real comrade, but the supernatural organization is different. If Toddy Belster has the power to crush him, then pretend I didn't say anything. If Toddy Belster and Chun Zhao are equal in power, Toddy Belster won't fight to the death with Chun Zhao. If Toddy Belster is slightly weaker, he'll definitely retreat first because they have different responsibilities. Chun Zhao is the president, the leader, and Toddy Belster is a mercenary. Yes, Captain, Blitz said. In terms of high-end combat power, we can only protect ourselves. We can't ask Toddy Belster to fight to the death for us, and we can't completely control him. In terms of the normal members, even though we have 3 times the number of them, we still can't beat the supernatural organization in terms of strength. Yes. So, if there's a full-scale conflict, even if Chun Zhao loses, they won't be completely defeated because their low-level combatants will still be intact. On the other hand, the failure of our high-level combatants or the mid-level and low-level combatants will be a fatal blow to us. Then we're just going to hide like turtles? You're not going to do anything? Vestana said discontentedly. Vestana, haven't you been working on that plan? If your plan succeeds, you'll also become a high-end fighter, no weaker than Toddy Belster and Chun Zhao. That's when the real counterattack will come. Vestana thought for a moment, then nodded. She was indeed a little impatient. After all, the psionic team existed to replace the supernatural organization. But until now, she hadn't made any progress on this mission. The supernatural organization was still as firm as a rock, unshakable. The psionic team had been developing steadily, but they still couldn't pose a threat to the supernatural organization. This time, Vestana placed the most importance on conquering Bermuda, because this was a chance to prove the psionic team. It would prove that the psionic team could handle any supernatural incidents. Once the conquest of Bermuda succeeded, the supernatural organization's purpose of existence would be greatly reduced. By then, it wouldn't matter if they were stronger than the psionic team. Whatever the supernatural organization could solve, the psionic team could too. That was enough. And now, Toddy Belster would become an important factor in this plan. His strength would also become the most important combat power. In the end, under Yang Gua and Blitz's persuasion, Vestana temporarily suppressed the idea of testing the supernatural organization. The most important thing now was indeed the conquest of Bermuda. As for dealing with the supernatural organization in the future, She could do it herself after her plan succeeded. Yang, make the arrangements. Book a hotel for Toddy Belster and the other members, Vestana said. Blitz, you're in charge of contacting the construction company to rebuild the headquarters. I hope the new headquarters won't be destroyed so easily. This time, all the members of the psionic team became homeless because of this conflict. The psionic team directly booked 3 floors of a hotel. The psionic team's office also needed a big place. The next day, Yanghua and Blitz went to find an office building. After all, the members' activities and offices needed a relatively large and private area. Toddy Belster, on the other hand, had a clear conscience and was having fun in the hotel. It was as if the culprit of all this wasn't him. When the other members saw Toddy Belster, they didn't dare mention what happened last night. They either called him Mr. or Master. No one dared to give him the cold shoulder. Mr. Toddy, I apologize for what happened last night. Yanghua found Toddy Belster again and took the initiative to apologize. His main task now was to appease Toddy Belster. It's fine. You and I both know what it means. Don't you? You test me, I fight back. It's that simple. Just don't do it a second time. I don't like it when people test me. Toddy Belster was especially generous right now, as if he wasn't the one who forcefully demolished the headquarters last night. Chapter 2396. Yanghua felt a little strange. For some reason, Yanghua felt that Toddy Belster's reaction was completely different from what he had imagined. However, Toddy Belster's calm attitude at least made Yanghua feel more relaxed. However, he did not know where that sudden feeling came from. Yanghua shook his head and got rid of the distracting thoughts. The psionic team still had a lot of chores to take care of. He also had to take responsibility. As soon as he left the hotel, he saw 2 Taoist priests walking toward him. Yes, Taoist priests. Senior Brother Dao Er. Senior Brother Dao San. The 2 Taoist priests stopped and looked at Yanghua, then at the hotel. Dao Jiu, why are you here? Senior Brother. Can you call me by my name? In their generation, other than eldest Senior Brother Dao E, who sounded like a Taoist Dharma name, everyone else had Dharma names. The others' Dharma names were 2, 3, 4, 5. And so on. Alright, Guer, why are you here? Call me by my full name. Xiao Yang. Forget it. Yanghua waved his hand with a dark expression. Senior Brother, you haven't told me why you are here. Grandmaster told us to come, Dao Er said. He said that you are facing a great calamity and wanted us to bring you back to Dragon Tiger Mountain to avoid it. Yanggua's expression changed when he heard his 2 senior brothers. However, he immediately thought of the impending Bermuda expedition. Could it be that his great tribulation would be in Bermuda? We were going to look for you at the psionic team's headquarters, but you came directly to our hotel. Wait. You didn't know we were coming? You're not here to pick us up? Senior Brother Dao Er, Senior Brother Dao San. I'm afraid I can't go back to Dragon Tiger Mountain with you. It's okay. We don't plan on asking you to come with us obediently. Grandmaster had already guessed that you wouldn't return to the mountain so obediently, so he specially allowed the 2 of us to break your legs and drag you back to the mountain gate if you say half a word of no. With that, a mace appeared in Dao Er's hand. This is a gift from Grandmaster, specially made to break your legs. How about it? Give it a try. Senior Brother, this is a public place. Are you sure you want to fight here? Tonight at midnight, let's meet at a place to decide who's better. If I lose, I'll willingly follow the orders of my 2 senior brothers. Alright, we'll wait until tonight. However, we're not familiar with this place. Arrange a place for us, Dao Er said. Let's go to the hotel to rest first. Junior Brother, I heard that all the services in this hotel are free, right? Dao San asked. Not all of them are free. Yanghua glanced at the hotel. Some of the services still had to be charged, such as unsuitable for children. Senior, some of the services are more expensive. It's fine. This time, Grandmaster has specially approved a sum of funds for the activities. He returned to the hotel and helped his two senior brothers arrange a place to stay. Only then did he return to his own business. However, Yanghua also had a headache regarding the matter of his two senior brothers. Senior brother Dao Er and senior brother Dao San were much stronger than him, not to mention the two of them working together. Furthermore, they had treasures specifically designed to deal with him. This made his head hurt even more. Find a place to hide? Although Los Angeles was huge, with Dao Er and Dao San's cultivation, it was not difficult for them to find him. Grandmaster had probably thought about this as well. What should he do? Yanghua worried about this matter as he drove. Suddenly, Yanghua thought of an idea. It was a very bad idea. Yanghua picked up his phone and dialed Vestana's number. Vestana, do me a favor, a small one? Knock, knock, knock. Before Dao Er and Dao San could rest for a while, there was a knock on the door. Dao Er and Dao San were sitting in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, leaning back on the sofa to soak their feet. Dao Er narrowed his eyes slightly when he heard the knock on the door. The door is unlocked. Come in. Then, a dozen police officers came in, all pointing their guns at Dao Er and Dao San. We are the Los Angeles police. We have received a report that you are hiding and smuggling drugs. The leading police officer pointed his gun at the two Taoist priests. He was a little puzzled. Were these two oddly dressed old men really the vicious scoundrels and drug traffickers that he had reported? Dao Er and Dao San did not panic at all. What are you talking about? I don't understand. It's English, Dao Er said calmly. Put your hands up, put your hands up. Both sides were talking in a language that the other side did not understand. You have to come with us. Now put your hands out. Senior brother, he took out his handcuffs to detain us, right? I think so, Dao Er said and stretched out his hands. Dao San also stretched out his hands. Captain, we didn't find any contraband. Don't worry about that. I received orders from the higher-ups to detain them for 24 hours. Are you sure we won't get into trouble? The other police officers seemed to have realized that the two old men did not look like drug traffickers. They looked more like old men who were here on vacation. They dealt with all kinds of criminals all year round. Therefore, sometimes they could find out whether a person was a criminal or not. Even if foreign drug traffickers wanted to find some special people to smuggle drugs, they would not find an old man who did not understand English at all. The old foreigners seemed less suspicious, but in fact, because the old could not keep up with the young, they were more likely to be exposed. The vast majority of people used young students to circulate and store their due. Students were smart, bold, and the least suspicious. Therefore, they suspected that the captain had other motives for bringing them here. At this moment, the captain also admitted that he was not here to search for contraband, but to receive another mission. Dao Er and Dao San left with the police obediently. Sure enough, it's just as Grandmaster guessed. Little junior brother won't go back with us obediently. This is probably his trick. Although Dao Er and Dao San had never been abroad, it did not mean that they were completely inexperienced. Moreover, Yang's handling of the matter was very crude. It was not difficult for them to guess that it was Yang's doing. Little junior brother has been out for a few years and has learned to be bad. So, when we bring him back to the sect this time, we must discipline him well. Yanghua heaved a sigh of relief when he saw his two senior brothers being sent into the police car from afar. He had finally avoided a disaster for the time being. If he really had to fight with the two of them, he would definitely be beaten up badly. However, he did not think that the crisis was over. He took the opportunity to go to their room to take a look. Their luggage should have been left in the hotel, and they probably did not bring their Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures with them. He would first get his hands on their Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures so that he would not be too passive even if he had to face them in the future. Chapter 2397. This kid really has the same idea. He took advantage of our absence to take our artifacts. Don't worry about him. I've never been to a police station before, and it's a foreigner's police station. Dao Er and Dao San were handcuffed and sitting behind the police car. However, they didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Instead, they were looking forward to it. The two policemen in the front seat were also muttering. "Captain, are these two old men important witnesses in a big case?" "You're thinking too much. They're just two ordinary old men." "Captain, you must be lying to me. Otherwise, they're the bosses of some gang. Look at their eyes, they look a little scary." The captain looked at the two old men in the rearview mirror and said, "You're just scaring yourself." After all, the captain was more experienced than his subordinates. Sometimes, the people detained in the police station might not be criminals or suspects. They might also be detained for some reason. Moreover, he had just checked the two old men's luggage. Their luggage was also very ordinary. There was nothing suspicious about it. Maybe they're wizards from the East. The policeman in the passenger seat began to guess their identities again. The captain rolled his eyes and ignored his subordinates. After arriving at the police station, Dao Er and Dao San were temporarily thrown into the corridor. In front of them and on their left and right were also arrested criminals. The two of them formed a sharp contrast with the criminals around them. They were like two lambs in a pack of wolves. "Hey, old man, what are you looking at?" At that moment, the man with a flat top and a nose ring, who was covered in all kinds of tattoos, shouted unhappily, "Young man, your fate is obscure. Dark clouds are looming over your head. You'll have bad luck in the near future. You must be careful and avoid water," Dao San said. "Third bro, can these foreigners understand you when you speak Mandarin to him?" "Oh, that's right." Dao San patted his head and suddenly came to a realization. He said that your luck has been bad recently. "It's very likely that something bad will happen because of water," said a man sitting on the left of Dao Er. "Bullshit." The flat-top man stood up and was about to attack. At that moment, a policewoman came over with a cup of coffee. The moment the flat-top man raised his arm, the coffee in the policewoman's hand flew away. The hot coffee was poured directly on the flat-top man. A layer of skin was almost peeled off from the heat. A few police officers came over and asked about the situation. They called for an ambulance and took the man away. Everyone looked at Dao Er and Dao San in a different light. "Sir, are you two prophets from the East?" "We are not prophets, but this old man is proficient in divination." Dao San stroked his mustache. "Can you help me take a look?" the man asked. Dao San stared at the man for a few seconds, looking him up and down. "The white light on your body is restrained, so you are a person of virtue. You must have done some good deeds, so you have the sign of yin turning into yang. Even if there is a bad thing, it can be turned into a good thing. However, your essence, qi, and spirit are declining, and your six senses are unclear. I'm afraid you haven't had a good rest in the past 3 years. However, you don't have the sign of a short life, so when you grow old, you will most likely be plagued by illness." Dao San paused and waved his hand. "Give me your palm. I'll read your palm." "Sir, please." Dao San took the man's hand and looked at his palm print. "Looking at your physiognomy, you have 2 marriages in this life, and the head and the tail are connected. You are suspected of having an extramarital affair. You have 2 daughters and a son. Your eldest daughter should be 9 years old this year, and you will have your second daughter this year. 3 years later, you will have your third child." The man's mouth was agape as he looked at Dao San in shock. In Dao San's notes, apart from some future events that did not happen, the things that had already happened were completely accurate. He did have a daughter, and he was currently in 2 relationships. However, the first relationship had come to an end. They had already separated, and his current girlfriend was already pregnant, and it was confirmed that she was pregnant with a girl. In addition, at the beginning of the year, he did have a serious illness, and his current girlfriend was a nurse in the hospital. They got to know each other when he was hospitalized. "Sir, you are the great sage of the East. You are too great. Little Dao, little Dao." Dao San stroked his mustache proudly. The man excitedly told the others around him. The others were also a little surprised, or looked at him suspiciously. At this moment, a bearded punk shouted, "Hey, let him take a look at me." The man hesitated and looked at Dao San. "Sir, this bearded man wants you to take a look at him. Are you? Come, let me take a look at him too." Dao San was also interested and did not refuse. He wants you to put your hand over. Dao San took the bearded man's hand and began to comment. 3 righteous, 3 fair, 6 meritorious, 5 generals. Sir, I don't understand what you are talking about. Dao San raised his head and looked at the face of the punk bearded man. He has a vermilion seed mark, which is the mark of an official. In other words, from his face, he should be a police officer. Wait, could this guy be a spy? Dao Er suddenly said. The expression of the man in charge of translating also changed slightly. Then he whispered into the ear of the punk bearded man. They said that you seem to be a police officer. The punk bearded man's expression also changed drastically, and he suddenly retracted his hand. The blood on his forehead is condensing. There will be a great disaster soon. Dao San glanced at the punk bearded man from the corner of his eye. He said that you might be in big trouble soon. Something very serious will happen. At this moment, Dao San took out a talisman. Let him hang it on his body. Don't take it off for the next 7 days. He said that you can't take it off for the next 7 days. The punk bearded man looked at the talisman hesitantly. Money? No money. Dao San waved his hand and at the same time drew an obscure pattern in the air with his palm. He chanted, The 3 sovereigns offer earth. The 5 emperors set love. The yellow sky offers respect. The 6 directions alone. What is he doing? The punk bearded man was conflicted. Looking at Dao San's strange expression, he did not want to believe it. However, this old Asian man had actually seen through his identity. This made his mind start to run wild. Chapter 2398. Katie, who's Katie? A police officer shouted from the end of the corridor. The big punk man stood up and raised his hand. That's me. It's your turn. Come in. Katie walked in and was brought to an interrogation room. Not long after, a detective came in. The detective locked the door from the inside. Katie, why did you come to the police station directly? The detective knew who he was, so he was very surprised that Katie had come to the police station. Recently, there was a safe at the Mexican border that wanted us to transport it. I don't know what the goods are, but the client is very mysterious. I saw him once from afar, and that guy gave me a very uncomfortable feeling. Katie said, the client's request is that when we transport the goods, we are not allowed to leave the motorcade, nor are we allowed to bring any communication devices. I can't inform you, so I can only drink while driving to attract the attention of the patrolling police. Then they brought me in. Now my car is detained in the parking lot of the police station. Huh? I'll send someone to open the safe immediately, but to avoid arousing suspicion, you'll need to be detained for 3 days. At the same time, you'd better get a new driver's license. That safe can't be opened. It's a safe completely made of titanium alloy. Our boss was also curious about what we were transporting. If it's something good, he'll take it for himself. But he couldn't open it even after using a cutting machine and laser. Is that safe very big? Of course. Do you think it's the kind that's kept in your cabinet? I drive a truck. Do you think if it's a small safe, it'll be transported in my big truck? All right, but you don't have to worry about how to open it. I'll find someone to open it. Ronson, after we arrest Colin this time, I want to quit, Katie said. Quit? Why? I don't want to continue being a villain and hooligan in the eyes of my family and friends. I want to be able to watch my son's school matches openly. Listen, Katie, everything you're doing now will be enough to make your child proud in the future. He can shout to everyone that you're his hero, Ronson advised. In the future? When he goes to college, or marry a wife and have children. Before he was born, I said that I wanted to quit, but you persuaded me to stay. Later, he could walk, and later he went to primary school. I don't know when the end will come. Maybe, as you said, one day what I did will make him feel honored. Maybe it will be at my funeral. Oh, will you come then? All right, let's not talk about this for the time being. After all, it's not easy to arrest Colin. Based on the information you provided me, speeding, drunk driving, and smoking Dama, the bail doesn't even need to be $10,000. I need more valuable information. I hope that it can keep him in prison until the end of time, or send him directly to the gallows as evidence. He's too careful. Most of the time, he doesn't even get involved in his business, Katie said. Only after we've delivered the goods will he invite us for a drink. As long as you're human, there will always be mistakes. I believe in your ability. Ronson patted Katie's shoulder. I have arranged a luxurious suite for you. Have a good time. Wait. Is there anything else? Katie raised her hands. Can you unlock the handcuffs? All right. Ronson unlocked Katie's handcuffs. Suddenly, he noticed the amulet hanging around Katie's neck. What's this? An accessory? You have terrible taste. Katie slapped Ronson's hand, but accidentally broke the string of the amulet. Damn it, don't touch my belongings. Be careful or I'll sue you. Katie picked up the amulet and hung it around his neck again. When Katie was sent to the cell, he found that there were already 2 people in the cell. They were Dao Er and Dao San, whom he had met in the corridor earlier. Katie nodded at them, chose a bed, and sat down. Because of the language barrier, he couldn't communicate with them. Senior brother, look at this fat guy. The blood energy on his body has thickened. It's like a sign of impending disaster. What's going on? Is my amulet useless? Dao Er also looked at Katie. This fatty has a big head and big ears, and he has a loyal face. He should have received some good karma, and with the help of your protective talisman, he should have been able to resolve the blood chi tribulation. Why didn't he? Katie could feel the 2 old men's gazes lingering on him. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. However, he didn't understand Chinese, and the 2 old men didn't understand English. The 2 of them just stared at each other. An Aiwa. This was the only Chinese that Katie knew. However, even this simple word was unclear. Hello. The 2 old men were about the same. They only knew a few simple English words. Where are you from? China. Dao Er and Dao San understood. Dao Er nodded. China. China willy good. Senior brother, what's willy good? It means good. I told you to learn more, but you only know how to play King of Kings. Look at us martial uncles, we can already take in a few foreign disciples. We can't even understand a few words of English. How can we keep up with the times? Aren't you not much better than me? Dao San mumbled. I've been in seclusion for 20 years and only came out recently. What about you? You only know how to idle around every day. How much good time has been wasted by you? How can you compare me to you? I told you to go into seclusion, but you didn't want to. You haven't improved in 20 years. How long have you been stuck in this realm? Senior brother, since we're here in the United States, there are people everywhere who understand English. This guy looks good. Why don't we follow the trend and take in a foreign disciple? Him? Dao Er looked at Katie. Katie panicked for no reason. She looked at Dao Er and Dao San hesitantly. What do you think? Can you do it? How do we communicate with him? Simple. Let our junior brother arrange one for us. As he spoke, Dao San took out a phone. Katie looked at the phone in Dao San's hand and couldn't help but be surprised. Where did this old man hide his phone? Didn't the police discover it earlier? This was a detention center. They would first be searched by the police, and then a second search would be conducted before they were locked up. Even if they hid their phone in their underwear, they wouldn't be able to hide it. Katie looked at the 2 old men even more curiously. Dao San ignored Katie's curious gaze and dialed Yang Guo's number. Guo, do you miss me? Senior brother. Why are you? Cut the crap and send me a translator. It's best if it's a spiritualist. If I don't see anyone in an hour, I'll go out and kill you. Divine Emperor of the 9 heavens. Chapter 2399. Yang Guo was a little guilty. Soon, a member of the psionic team was sent over. He knew Chinese. It was a Chinese-American, but he was a pure banana person. He had immigrated to America in his father's generation. Hello, Master Dao Er, Master Dao San. I'm from Yang Guo. My name is Scott Lee. Katie looked at the Asian newcomer. His hands were handcuffed, but he went straight to Dao Er and Dao San as soon as he came in. She was even more curious about the two old men. Just then, Scott Lee came to Katie. "Hello, I'm their translator." "Translator? Why? I don't know. I'm just following orders from my superiors. They asked me to help you communicate," Scott Lee said. "Superiors? Did they send you to jail?" "It's only 24 hours, and there's no criminal record. It's just a mission for me." Just then, Dao Er and Dao San came to Katie. Kuti was a little wary of these two old men who were talking mysteriously. "Big guy, we're from the Dragon Tiger Mountain Heavenly Master Sect in China. My name is Dao Er. We think you have the talent to learn Taoism, which is Eastern magic. Are you willing to be our disciple?" Scott Lee translated at the same time. Of course, he could only give a rough explanation. "They're from China. They want you to be their disciple." "Listen, I won't be their disciple. I didn't even go to university. Do you know why? When I was in high school, I forced 3 teachers to resign. Then I was also expelled. I'm sure they can't take my fists." Katie clenched her fists. Her bare arms were even bigger than Dao Er and Dao San's heads. "I don't think they have anything to teach me." He refused. Scott Lee used a more direct method to answer 2 and 3. "If you refuse, you might die. Of course, if you're lucky, you might be able to escape. But if you become our disciple, we'll help you. They said that if you refuse, they'll kill you," Scott Lee said. "Did they really say that?" "Something like that," Scott Lee said irresponsibly. Katie shrugged and sat back on the bed. "They don't have that ability." "All right, if you guys still want to talk, call me at any time," Scott Lee said. "Senior brother, what do we do now?" "I don't know. It's fine if he doesn't want it. This safe is way too hard." Lang Sun helplessly looked at the completely damaged chainsaw wheel in the hands of the 2 workers. One of the workers raised his visor and shook his head. "No, it's impossible. It's impossible to open this safe with conventional physical means, unless you use corrosive chemicals or explosives." Ronson shook his head. He still didn't know what was inside. If chemical agents or explosives were used, it was very likely that the contents would be destroyed. His ultimate goal was to arrest Colin. Perhaps the contents of the safe would be a powerful piece of evidence. Therefore, it was impossible for him to use chemicals or explosives to open the safe. Think of another way. "The sturdiness of this safe is completely unreasonable," the worker said. "Even if it's made of titanium alloy, it shouldn't be this sturdy." Lang Sun reached out and stroked the huge safe in front of him. It was silvery white all over, and there was no trace of screws or bolts connecting it. The safe was completely integrated. Even the connection between the door and the safe was perfect. There was not a single gap. But because of this, Lang Sun was even more certain. The contents of the safe were very important, although Lang Sun didn't know the exact value of the safe. Without a few $100,000, it was impossible to buy or make it. Something that was stored in such an expensive safe box must be very important. "Damn, another wheel is broken." The worker looked at Lang Sun. "If you can get a laser cutter, you might be able to open this safe. Anyway, conventional means won't work." Laser cutter. Lang Sun immediately had an idea. Although there were no laser cutters in the police station, it didn't mean that he couldn't find one. Through layers of connections, Lang Sun finally got a laser cutter. At the same time, there were people operating the laser cutter. But the laser cutter was really too big. Just assembling the laser cutter would take a few hours. "What is this? It tastes terrible," Dao San grumbled as he dropped his fork. Their dinner tonight was macaroni and cheese with a steak. Dao Er also lost his appetite after a few mouthfuls. "When we get out, we must teach the youngest a lesson. How dare he lock us in here and ignore us?" Dao Er and Dao San were both furious. "Hey kid, come here," Dao Er called out to Sko Li. "What's the matter, masters? Give Yonggua a call and tell him to prepare dinner for us." Sko Li looked at Dao Er and Dao San awkwardly. "I don't have my phone." "Really?" Dao Er glanced at Sko Li nonchalantly. Sko Li suddenly shivered. He knew from Yang Guo that these two were Yang Guo's senior brothers, and they were ridiculously powerful spiritualists, and they were from Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect. In the spiritual world, Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect was definitely the richest of the rich. If Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect was compared to a school, then it was the top school. Almost all spiritualists yearned to go there. Every spiritualist who came from there had the mark of Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect. Almost all of them represented power and nobility. Moreover, Li knew how powerful Yang Guo was. How strong were the two people who could make Yang Guo afraid. Okay, I'll call Yang now. Katie saw a phone suddenly appear in Li's hand. What's wrong with these people? Where did they hide their phones? Also, it felt like they weren't here to go to jail. It was more like they were here on vacation. Soon, a few police officers arrived outside the cell. These police officers carried all kinds of takeaway and delivered it to their cells. Were these two old men rich? They didn't look like it. The two old men opened the takeaway and curled their lips in disdain. Forget it, we're in jail after all. We can't ask for too much, Dower said. Call him over to eat too. Li looked at Katie. They said you should come over too. Me? I've already eaten. Are you full from that pile of dog shit? Bookmark for easier reading. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.